feel bad for Fintan. I hate
Why
that
do I
so
feel bad
much.
for Fintan too?
Hi, I'm Jaycie. Welcome to the Forbidden Cities, a Keeper of the Lost Cities podcast. A podcast where Sydney and I talk about Keeper of the Lost Cities books, theories, characters, ships, and more.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 20. This is Sydney.
This is Jaycie.
And we are back. Long time no see or talk to.
Yeah.
It is November something,
23rd.
and we have not recorded since.
We haven't recorded. I think it was August 23rd. So I think it's like exactly how many months is that?
Wow. 3, I think. I don't know.
Something like that.
August, September, October. 3 months.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Yeah. Oops. It's
been a long semester.
I haven't been very active on the Instagram. Sorry about that. But that's because I'm a senior in high school and Jaycie is a freshman in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been quite the interesting year.
Yeah, it's
and
very
we
different.
just have not had time to think about adding one more thing on. But we're going to try and make it up to you guys with this new theme that we have, new series. So Jaycie, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So Sydney texted me about probably a month ago and was like, hey, I have an idea for another podcast episode when we have time. And it was super random, so I have no idea how she came up with it.
Yeah, and I don't remember how I came up with it either, to be honest.
But it was a good idea. So it's like discussing kind of like the motives of the Neverseen. Like, why did the people who are on it turn to the Neverseen? What's their backstory? And then what's like the Neverseen's plan? So it would give us more insight into like who could probably be recruited, and then also like what their next attack is going to be. And if our theories are right, I'm going to be proud. I don't even know what our theories are yet, but if they are right, you're going to probably hear about it on a future episode. So
yeah, and we were going to do this in one episode until Jaycie started doing some research and realized that,
and I was like,
as usual,
we have
as
more
our
material.
plans usually go, it's gonna take a lot longer than we anticipated.
Yeah, I was like,
probably not a surprise to anyone.
I know we said we would go through all the Neverseen members, but I've only done Fintan, and I'm not finished with Lodestar yet, and I have 11 pages. And I actually got the Kindle version of almost all of the books, and that was actually really helpful just to do keyword search and jump through. So it's very detailed. I don't think I missed a lot of stuff except in a couple of books, and I'll name which ones they are as I get to them because I don't want to say wrong and have to backtrack later. But there were like 2 books that I didn't have the Kindle version of, and so I just wrote down the events that I had remembered from those.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also, we have a guest with us on this podcast.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Lili.
And Sydney, you can introduce Lili. Or yeah, Lili, introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say I'm really excited to be on this episode because I love talking about villains. I think they're so interesting. And so when Sydney was like, hey, we're talking about the Neverseen, I was like, all right, let's go for it.
Yay! This is like the perfect episode.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I guess I'm also a fan of Keeper of Lost Cities. I don't know what else there is to say. I've written 2 fan fictions.
Yes, and they're beautiful. Guys, she's a really good writer. I may have cried during one of her fan fictions.
You're also slightly biased, though, because it's about Orly. So.
Yeah. It was about Orly and Kenrick, and I was like, oh,
this was like 2 or 3 years ago, right?
It was a long time ago.
I can't really reread it now because I would change a lot about it. That's just how writing works.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, I know what you mean, though. I find, like, my old writing stuff on Google Docs, and I'm just like, oh, my.
Yeah, what was I thinking?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, sorry, what were you going to say, Sydney?
I was just going to say that Jaycie and Lili have never met in person.
Yeah.
Nope.
I know Lili from a homeschool group, kind of. And I know Jaycie from when I was really little. And so we have been on this
interconnected.
Yeah.
Yes. I made a group chat of them like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Probably,
and we just use it for like writing, because we're all 3 writers, and so we'll go on there and like try to motivate each other to write,
Yes.
or like rant about books we've read.
And I'm
Mostly
also
keeper.
an INFJ as well. From the
Yes.
Myers-Briggs.
Yes.
So we
She's
just
not
found
kidding.
each other.
You have a lot of similarities.
She's been through a lot of retyping and typing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought I was like an ENFP for the longest time. And then we all
remember
just
that.
concluded, we're all INFJs. Look at
Uh-huh.
that.
Yeah, and it's easy because you're a 4, right? Enneagram 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm almost a textbook 4.
My friend who I met here at college, who's a INFJ 4. This is super random, but she acts like an extrovert too. So I wonder if that's a 4 thing. That's completely off topic,
Yes!
but yeah.
That's why I'm like, sometimes I'm like, am I an INFJ? And then I'm like, okay, well, combined with the 4, and then, yeah, I'm definitely an INFJ just because the cognitive functions as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. And FE tries to like mimic other people.
True.
Yes, FE.
So, that darn FE.
All right. Sorry for you
No.
people who don't understand Myers-Briggs and are like, are they doing another one of those? No.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have
No,
an
we're
actual
not.
episode
Sorry.
planned. No. We just like it. Okay. So.
I like talking about it.
It's really fun. So, for the actual questions, what the episode is going to look like, we're going to run through like some theorizing questions, kind of like before the actual detail. This episode is just going to go in depth on Fintan, and then we'll have an in-depth episode on the other main Neverseen characters, and then one with like a bunch of them who aren't mentioned very much, all put together in one episode. So we'll see how that all works out. But my first like theory question: do you guys have any ideas as to like why the Neverseen was founded, or like what made people like break away from the Lost Cities and create the Neverseen?
So I was reading on the Lost Cities Keeper fandom page, and it was kind of confusing, but the way that they put it, the origin was like, had to do with the counselors and how they, when they started, I think there was something like people wanted them to restrict the humans or something, like restrict humans. I forget exactly what it was, but they refused to because humans are still an intelligent species. And then it sort of hinted that the Neverseen founded that maybe humans should be locked away or something, but it wasn't exactly clear.
Yeah. I have it pulled up now. Do you want me to read it? What
Sure.
they have on the wiki?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So on the wiki, what it says, and we can agree and disagree with this, it says, for thousands of years, the council reigned over the elven world. They were the wisest and most talented members of the elven society, working together for the greater good. But in the past few decades, humans had developed weapons powerful enough to destroy the planet. Therefore, 60 years ago, a measure was brought before the council to create a new sanctuary specifically for the humans. The council refused to uproot an intelligent species. The supporters of the initiative were angry with the council. Some called for members to resign. There were threats to go ahead with the plan. The council did not regard the threats. All talk of rebellion vanished, and the council was satisfied. Contrary to what the council believed, supporters of the initiative moved underground, and some of the more aggressive ones formed the rebel group now known as the Neverseen. Yeah.
Oh.
So I remember reading that was that book 1? Because I remember like touching on the origins of the Neverseen when we did that one, because Alan like gives a whole
Yes.
exposition at the end.
He does.
And
At the end of the book.
I remember being like, okay guys, we've been overthinking this whole time. It's in book 1.
Yeah.
So like
Yes.
Wait, really?
yeah,
I'm gonna look
it's
for
like
it.
super in depth. But I remember connecting that
didn't
to,
know that.
or like wondering what the connection was to Bront liking humans so much, because if you remember in Nightfall, Bront is like, he loves Amy and is like riding on an alicorn with her. Am I remembering that
yeah.
right? I've barely read that book.
No, that was definitely true.
And it's
He was
like,
oh
what
my
happened
goodness,
here?
a human.
And then
Oh,
Fintan, as we'll see,
I found
hates
the part.
humans. Yes, go ahead.
No, it's literally basically what the wiki says, actually.
Okay, so that's just a quote of it.
Almost. Page 487 in my book 1 is Alden saying, the supporters of the initiative were angry with the council. Yep, it's basically an exact quote, just changed
So
slightly.
it's interesting, because he's kind of vague
Yeah.
about it. I wonder what they were angry about originally.
Mhm.
Were they
Yeah.
angry about the human assistance program being broken, or were they angry about there still being a human assistance program? Because I don't
Like,
think
do
the
they
Neverseen...
hate humans?
The Neverseen seems to hate humans, because, like, Gisela murdered that guy in Legacy.
Oh, it's right here.
What is it?
Some very influential people have grown tired of hiding in the shadows while humans run amok throughout the globe.
Mm-hmm.
But the council rejected it, refusing to imprison an intelligent species.
Okay,
So
the council's more in
sounds-
support of humans than the people are. And this is kind
Yes.
of an older council, so we know Brunt was a part of it, so we know what side he
Yes.
was on.
And the older Neverseen was upset that the council was giving humans so much of the world. So it's always been a against humans thing.
And see, that's why I think Fintan wants to do the human sanctuary, and I'll get into that. I have proofs that I have saved, but I think that he wants to do like a human sanctuary thing, like what they have for the animals. He wants to sort of imprison them, and then if you remember the criterion, which I'll also mention later, I think that's criterion for like, because remember he would ask Keith, who do you want to save? I think that's
Yes.
criterion for who's going to get to actually live. And I don't know how Keith's new ability is
wow.
connected to this. If he's gonna like mind control the humans into like drowning themselves or something, I don't know. It's gonna be dark because they never seem to want to kill like a bunch of people,
Or mind control the humans into
or just
organizing
like
themselves?
sleep them with Saporidine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know, man. So that's gonna be interesting. Anyway, so yeah, that's a very clear backstory for the Neverseen, or it's as clear as like it gets, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just
In the
interesting
book.
because the council doesn't really love humans either.
No,
and then the Neverseen,
the only one that I've really noticed is like Brunt. He seems to like.
yeah.
And everyone was like, oh, is it because he was in love with a human? I remember hearing that theory, and I remember thinking it was a little bit off because it just doesn't seem like him. I think that he just, like, actually has compassion, and he's just remembers this fight.
Yeah.
I wonder, too, if Fintan was still on the council at that point, and if he was still against humans then.
Yeah. That's just interesting.
'Cause we don't know
There's
the
a lot
timeline.
to unpack there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff,
I
and we just
hope
don't have a lot of
Shannon
details for
Messenger
it.
gets to that.
Yeah, me too, because she has 2 books left, right?
Yep.
I believe.
I remember she
Yeah.
announced, like, one of them was going to be the last book.
Yeah, she
Yes.
said book 10 is the last on
Oh,
her
man.
Instagram.
This is going to be long.
Kind of crazy.
I know.
know.
I've been reading it for so long. I'm going to be, like, freaking out, like, reading these in college, and my friends are going to give me looks. And Brooks is
Yeah.
going to laugh at me. That's going to be really funny. I'm going to be, like, dying. Anyway. Anyway, so the next question that I have is, what issues did the Neverseen seem to be trying to address? Because we already know, like, the problem of humans, which Fintan has a speech on that we'll get to. And then I
thing.
memorized literally, like, half of his speech at one point because it was just cool. It was just well written. And then what's, like, their vision for the future? So I know they're trying to address the issue of, like, humans, but they also seem to be addressing, like, the discrimination against the talentless. So it's, like, black and white, like, not all
Yeah.
bad. Because the discrimination against the talentless and, like, against pyrokinetics and all of that, that's what drove a lot of them to turn evil, I think. At least that's my theory.
Yes.
And I have proof that that's, like, part of Fintan's inspiration, too.
Yeah.
So their vision is like a perfect world, but controlled their way. So I think that their sort of means justify the ends, or sorry, ends justify the means. I said that backwards. Guys, I'm sorry. This is not the normal time for us to be recording. It's 8:30 in the morning, and we usually do this at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, for real.
Like when we haven't slept yet. So, right. They're doing sort of an ends justify the means thing. And so, what do you think?
And when we get to Gisela, or Gisela, however I say it every different way.
Sydney says it
Anyway.
all the ways.
Yeah, honestly. She's definitely that way. The ends justify the means.
And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Keith, I love you, and you need to fulfill your legacy, so I'm just gonna like strike you unconscious for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And steal your blood.
I love you.
Manipulation.
Yeah.
That's like, we're gonna have some fun in that episode.
Yeah.
My next one is what seems to inspire the new people to join, and these will also be like questions that we can answer partly now,
I
but
was about to say
these
yeah,
episodes are
we're
gonna help us get more clear insights. I'm just trying to see how closely we can theorize.
kind of a
We didn't really
blueprint
answer the
right
last
now.
question, right?
What'd you say? Sorry.
Did we answer the last question?
We kind of did. Did you have like more insights to it?
Well, I was just gonna say the whole like how do you pronounce it? Pyrokinetic. Is
Mm-hmm.
that how you say it? The whole like whether that should be banned. That's a whole thing in itself.
Yeah,
That
and
was
like the
an
mesmer and all of
interesting
that, the
discussion.
stuff that's
Oh, yeah.
restricted. inflicted.
And how much, like you said, you have proofs on how that affected
Even
Fintan, right?
Tarek, because, like, the Desquire ability isn't restricted at all, but he's the only one. So it's like, I don't know. That just seems to kind of connect. Like, Sophie and Bronte are the only inflictors, and I know I'm pronouncing Bront wrong. I know it's technically Bronte, but I can't say that in a good conscience. So, and like Grady's the only mesmer, but like it's not like if they took the restrictions off of these abilities that like there would just be thousands of them running around. Even with pyrokinesis, there's like 2.
Yeah. And it's interesting to think about the fear controlling people to do with pyrokinesis. Like, it really was only one main incident, and then this fear of pyrokinetics has kind of haunted them for a long time.
Yeah.
When they could really just have really good training, change things instead of just waiting for these accidents to happen.
Yeah, and you'll see where it says this in the books eventually, but stifling that ability has only made Fintan worse, and that's like the whole reason he wanted to train Morella, was because he like had compassion for her and was like, hey, she's gonna have this insatiable craving for flame, and if she's not trained properly and doesn't know how to use it, then she's gonna end up crazy. And they were all like, I guess, fine. So like it's really interesting. Like, I wonder if pyrokinesis hadn't been banned, if Fintan hadn't been like forced to live as talentless, would he have gone as unhinged as he is? Because like Sophie even ponders like, how has he not shattered after what he did to Kenrick? And Keith was like, he knows how to wipe his own memories. But I think that like he's just a little insane because of what he's been driven to.
Yeah.
He might know how to wipe his memories. I don't know how. This guy has so many like random abilities. He can jump out of a fiery ring without anyone noticing. He's an interesting person. Anyway, so does that seem to like answer the question, I guess, as well as we can right now?
Well, I think it raises more questions, but it's very interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there.
There's gonna be so much. And so this kind of ties into the next theory, is like what seemed to inspire the people to join who did. And it's kind of the same answer almost, like that for like Alvar, it was just the fact that his family's so like big and famous and he's a vanisher instead of a telepath, and so it was like a lesser ability.
And something to do with the Vacker legacy for him that we don't know yet.
And I don't know exactly what that means. But if it's just supposed to be like if the vagueness is the point, like the Vacker legacy is just their fame, like if someone said the Kardashian legacy in our world, then like that the fact that he's just not effortlessly beautiful like his siblings, the fact that he's, you know, a vanisher instead of a telepath.
Kind of?
Well, it always mentions that he works on his appearance. He's not bad looking, but he has to work on it to have the same level of like beauty as his siblings have naturally. And so he's probably like felt, or he's had some sort of complex from that. Just felt kind of inferior.
I think it was also like his personality, because you know, Fitz is so seems perfect, you know, obviously he's not perfect, but he has this essence of being perfect. And then Biana, same thing, she's just the princess, but Alvar was always kind of like the rebel, which is why Keith looked up to him for a while. So that probably has a lot to do with it as well. So
just a like almost imposter syndrome sort of thing. Like I don't belong with the Vackers. That's interesting too, because even we're kind of getting into the Alvar episode, but this is kind of the last little thing I'll mention. Even when Biana was like, Alvar, like, how are you doing this? He was like, you might understand one day whenever you see the Vacker legacy for what it is. So if I'm right and it's just supposed to be like a vague thing, then he's saying you're a vanisher too. You're a sister, you're younger, you're going to understand that you're not going to live up to Fitz. You're not going to live up to his like perfect representation of the Vackers, and then you're going to feel inferior and you'll understand.
See, I want to believe you, but part of me still thinks there's something with the Vacker legacy that we're not being told.
Yeah, it really feels like it's supposed to be something super big because of how much it was like driven up, and then they were just like, Troll Hive, that's the Vacker legacy, and everyone was like, what? And so I don't know, I wonder if we're overthinking it, but that's just my theory. There are more books. There's time for me to be wrong.
There's only 2 though.
Yeah, I know. They're gonna be so long.
They better be 1,000 pages, honestly.
I know. The binding is just gonna be like,
Okay, but to talk about briefly the motivations for the other Neverseen members to join. So we know some. What about like Umber, Roy? Just to give our like brief thoughts right now before we get to them in episodes.
With Roy, I have no idea. I remember him being in like Neverseen, and he was sort of connected to Alvar, and I don't remember if he recruited Alvar.
Exilium?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, it probably has a lot to do with the injustice of Exilium.
Oh, you're
I
right.
really hope she uses him more in the next two books, because he has such a fascinating ability. What's it called? It's a Sani path. I cannot pronounce it.
I have no idea how to pronounce it. The force field guy.
In my head, I literally say Pisinopath.
I just read the word and think force field.
Yeah.
It just means force field.
Honestly, but I wonder with him and Maruka, doesn't she have the same ability?
She does.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's gonna be interesting. Can you like war with those, like run them into each other or something? I don't even know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know how this concept works, but I'm excited to see.
Yeah,
Isn't
there better be a
something like that
battle
in
between
Marvel?
them.
You guys said things at the same time. I don't know what you said.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We're online. That's how it goes. Someone go. I don't know. Lily, what'd you say?
I was just saying, there should be a battle between Maruka and Roy for sure.
Yes.
Or Roy joins the good side. Well,
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
I can't see
that's
it,
deep
but that would be
theory.
cool.
Sorry, Sydney, what'd you say?
Oh, I just said, isn't there something like that in Marvel, like force fields? Or is there something else? I don't know.
There
Anyway.
must be.
I remember in like Infinity War, they had like a force field around them. I think. Yeah, because it was right before, I don't want to say spoilers if people were like me and weren't allowed to watch it, but it was right before that event at the end of Infinity War.
Event.
I feel bad for people. I couldn't watch Marvel until May.
It's not ringing a bell, but it probably will later. So
Yeah, I just remember seeing like the Wakandans like inside of it. It was like their technology, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Wakanda.
Yeah.
That rings a bell.
Yay.
yes.
But I don't know if anyone can actually wield force
No,
fields.
I don't think they have
I'd
like
have to
actual
think about
power.
that.
I don't know. But yeah, so I think for Roy it had something to do with, I don't know, probably Exilium. Umber, we don't know much about it all. Like she was just there and then she wasn't, but she just seemed like a dark soul.
Maybe this.
She's
maybe
pretty
the stigma
moody.
of being a shade.
I mean,
somehow?
oh right, there
Or
is
just
there
the
is a sort of
darkness.
just like shade discrimination.
Yes.
Did they
or just
say
the
something?
darkness of the ability in general?
Yeah, because I really feel like I'm not making this up. I feel like it was said in the series that your ability can like affect your personality in certain ways, or they're like sort of connected. Yeah, and so I'm sure that there was some sort of connection there.
Yeah, and the whole thing with shadow flux, and maybe things to do with that.
Yeah.
And then we have Gisela or Gisela. Wait, sorry, Lily. What were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say, we'll probably. I wonder if Tam just found out anything about her, because he probably did. While he was
Yeah, and
with
he's
the
around
Neverseen.
her all the time. And if anyone's seen the short story, he's like around her all the time. And Lynn's like, he doesn't hang out with me anymore.
Wait, that's Glimmer.
That's who I meant. Oh, I thought. Never mind. I was confused. But anyway, yeah, with Glimmer, that is a thing. Back to Umber.
Glimmer, we could unpack Glimmer too.
Yeah.
Glimmer should
Glimmer
probably be the last one we do, because she's about
we
to be
don't
most
know
relevant.
anything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lily, when you read the short story, you'll see that there's a little more about Glimmer in that. Just a tiny bit.
Barely. It's just Lynn pouting about her.
Yeah.
I was like, I sided with Stina. It was funny. That's vague, but let's just say.
And I did not. But we can argue about that another time.
Yes, we shall debate.
I will definitely read it.
I'll make sure I get it to you. And then what's another member? I have like
Gisela.
a list, but I'm just
Brant.
being lazy. Yeah, both of those.
Brant too.
Brant, he turned evil because he was a pyrokinetic. I said turned evil like it's that simple.
And the
he
whole
turned to the Neverseen.
talentless. His was being talentless and unable to
Unable to
marry
satisfy.
Jolie.
Yeah. Well, that and
Even though-
satisfy the craving for flame. So it was everything. That's why he was so insane. Was just because it was so many things.
Yep.
He definitely had like some mental problems or just like a need for maybe appreciation or something because
Yeah.
you think about Jolie
True.
and she was just like, I'll marry you toutless or not. And Brent
Mhm.
was like, no, I hate that the world is looking at us like we're doing something wrong. He just
Mhm.
had this obsession to need to be right or something like that.
There must be something really intense about being a pirate. Kinetic.
Oh
Yeah, and I have notes about that in this episode. It will be
Yeah.
fun.
It's a recurring theme
Yeah.
of
Insatiable flame too, like even with the
Yeah.
Everblaze. I wonder if Fintan was because he's the only one that we know was able to create the Everblaze. I wonder if that's connected to that desperate desire for like being able to create the flame, that insatiable desire, and then it creates insatiable flame. I wonder if someone's properly trained from a young age that they won't actually be driven to Everblaze, that they'll just be able to create balefire, normal calm stuff. Because if you remember, Fintan's trademark was balefire. It's like a calm blue fire. It's still fire, but it's very controlled. It's used everywhere. It's very useful, and it's like even blue, like it's a calm color. It's just a color of peace. But then as he grows older and he's less controlled and he's not able to use his ability or satisfy his craving, forced to live as talentless, and he becomes angry and has that insatiable craving, the flame reflects that mental state that he's in. So I wonder if that's why he's like a little bit worried about Morella, because in the later books he does seem very resigned to his fate of being imprisoned. And so I wonder if he's just like, I'm just gonna make sure that like nobody else just murders their friends like I did by accident.
Yeah.
Which definitely paints him in a completely different way.
Yeah, and in Everblaze, there's even little notes about how Sophie was looking at his memories and she's like, he used to be a really good person. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So he's an interesting character. Like, he's not just crazy evil like we'd see with, like, Brant. Like, he has, or even Gethin, he has this, like, other side. I'm excited to get to the notes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, should we?
I want to touch on Gisela before we, like, move on.
Okay.
Her inspiration.
Ooh, Gisela.
Yeah, she's
I love her so much.
I
I don't
You hate her
at
and
all.
love her, yeah.
Yeah.
You love her because
But
she's a cool character,
good
but
villain.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
She's scary.
she is
Actually
terrifying.
scary.
And Vespera's kind of tied to her, but we don't know much about her other than she was in prison. It'll be interesting to research Vespera when we get to her. But Gisela, I don't know what drove her to turn evil. Does she have like a good reason for turning against the council that we know of at all?
Like,
cannot
besides
think
an
of it.
obsession
feel
for
like-
power?
I think that might just be it. Lily's just psychoanalyzing all
And
these characters.
control.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a rant that she does in the series that
And
will help
Nightfall,
us with
isn't it?
this. It might be.
That
But
sounds right.
we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, I know I don't have the Kindle version of Nightfall, so I'm gonna have to buy it before we get to her episode because I want to make sure I get the important notes on her.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's gonna be interesting. Her motive is just like, I think she wants to be like the Vackers almost. She wants to have that legacy surrounding her.
Yeah.
That's why she always talks about Keith's legacy.
And she seems almost like she sees problems and she's like, okay, I have to fix it, and has like a control complex maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Or is maybe a guess that I could see.
Yeah, that sounds like it's on the
Yeah.
right track.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then the last like big picture question. It's very much tied into these. Like what would be their plan going forward? Like what's their next attack plan, and like why are they targeting the people they're targeting? Because I remember saying this theory in one of the episodes that like they've attacked each of the intelligent species. So in book 1 they were just like attacking Sophie and Dex, but then book 2, 3, I'm trying to remember the order of it. I remember they attacked the ogres.
3 is Elvin is like trying to undermine the council very much.
Yes, they were just trying to undermine trust in the council, and so that was also a little bit of a feature in 5, or a little bit of a theme. There we go. In 5, the dwarves were in. When did they attack the dwarves? I remember this happening. Yes, they were
That was
disappearing dwarves.
recent.
That was in. No, I feel like it was Everblaze. I remember
But
Grady.
they've been brought back in recently.
Okay.
The dwarf.
Oh yeah, because that was like that was
was
legacy. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Gnomes were Neverseen for sure.
Yeah. And even ogres were sort of like Neverseen Lodestar whenever the Neverseen turned against them again. Then obviously the trolls were flashback. And the goblins were, I remember, that must have been Lodestar. because I remember them going to Gillingham whenever one of them was killed. But that wasn't like a full attack against the goblins. It was just the one. So I wonder if they're gonna like actually target the goblins the way that they did with the dwarves when they went to the Dwarven queen or whatever, or the way they did with the gnomes whenever they actually try to take over their land. I wonder if they're gonna try to undermine trust in the council by attacking the goblins before just going straight to the actual elven cities and then being like, yeah, so like if you trust them, you know, join them. But like if you want to be on our side whenever all of the destruction rains down, this is your chance. Like, do you think that they're strong enough to hold us back? Do you really? And then, like, the counselors are actually going to fight. It's going to be cool.
Yeah. I feel like the thing about keeper villains and plans is that Shannon, it almost seems unpredictable, and in a way it might be.
Yeah.
But also,
it's really random.
Also, it could be just that she's being realistic about it. How plans fail. You change them. You adapt them. You let go of, like, see, to us, we want it to go, okay, each species, boom, 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 boom. Like, we want symmetry, right? But in reality, plans are going to fail, and you're going to have to change what's happening and, like, keep up with the new whatever's going on then. And so it makes a lot of sense that it hasn't gone predictably.
That actually makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Sorry, at the same time, though, I really hope... Oh, I was just going to say, at the same time, I really hope she does have this culmination of everything they're doing, and it makes sense, because it is really like, okay, why are they doing
what is
this?
I agree. There's a good and a bad side to it.
She's smart. She'll figure out something, and we're all going to be like, how did we not think of this? But also, like, I literally never thought of this.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully.
So that's the last, like, pre-series question, or pre-Fintan question, I should say. So now I'm just going to start, like, talking about Fintan, and then we'll talk about, like, I guess the implications of the stuff that I noticed. So I have this section on, like, before the series. We know that he was, like, well-respected as a former counselor, but was, like, unstable, and we know that from the memory in Unlocked. And I don't actually have anything, like, from that memory, because Fintan isn't in it. Kenrick just talks about Fintan in it. And that's, you know, Orly's catch memory that Sophie and Orly look at. But Kenrick felt a need and, like, justification to interrogate Fintan, even though he didn't tell Orly why. Even he did mention two, like, random phrases, which were Stellar Loon and Elysian. And Orly said that Fintan was telling the truth and he didn't know what Stellar Loon was. But they didn't... And how to pronounce the other word? Elysian? I always forget.
Maybe Wait, I don't know.
I say Elysian in my head.
Elysian.
It reminds me of, like, the Greek heaven from the Greek gods.
It is, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know
definitely
what it
connected.
means. But I think that Fintan does, because Kenrick said that Fintan knew about Elysian. Like, he knew Fintan knew what it was, but he didn't know. Kenrick didn't know what it was. He couldn't get deep enough in his mind for that. I wonder if that's connected to the human sanctuary at all.
That's what I've thought. I'm, like, even sitting here looking at the wiki and where it says a new sanctuary, I'm like,
Yeah,
definitely.
Ooh.
Especially because of the Greek heaven thing, though I don't know why he would want to make it a heaven.
Yeah, I don't know, because that seems more like it would be something for, like, the elves. But maybe that's his vision, like, his new lost cities will be Elysian.
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, and hey, Sydney, just for the sake of the listeners, do you want to mute your mic whenever you type, just so that it's not super loud?
Oh, sorry, my bad. I didn't know you could
you're
do
good.
That.
You couldn't. You had no idea. And then let's see. Fintan said that he didn't know what they were, and Orly said that it felt like he was telling the truth, which makes sense because Stellar Loon seemed to be a part of Gisella's vision. I think that was because she usually has the stuff relating to the stars, except for Lodestar. But I remember giving an entire explanation on Stellar Loon. Sydney, do you remember that?
Not really.
It was super in-depth. Let me see if I have it saved to my notes. But I remember if that was connected to, like, the shadow flux and all of that. Was it? Because I remember Orly saying Stellar Loon was, like, a combination of starlight and lightning or something. Am I thinking of the right thing?
Yes. I think it's connected to shadow flux.
Yeah. It was.
Sorry, I'm also skimming the Wikipedia on the Elysian fields. So
You're good. Was that
doing my own
like
side
one of
research
the things that they used to?
create Stellar Lune?
I don't remember if Stellar Lune was involved in Keith's new ability. Like if it created something that created
Oh yeah,
something.
it definitely was.
So, okay, I found my super long explanation of Shadowflux and Ethertine. So, Ethertine is the thing that's made from Starlight and Lightning. I don't know if we know. Sydney, are you looking at what Stellar Lune is, or are you looking at something else?
No, I'm looking at something else.
Okay.
Here,
I
can
can, though.
look it up.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me mute my mic.
Cool. So, yeah, I don't really know what Stellar Lune is, but we will try to figure it out. But anyway, I don't remember whose vision that was a part of, but I think it was Gisella's, or like I said that was. Lili, are you still there?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm just looking up Stellar Lune, unless Sydney is.
Cool. Did
I
anyone
am
find?
too, but we both can. All we know is Stella means star and Lune means moon. That's honestly all it has on the Wikipedia.
Okay.
Wow, that's helpful.
I'll go more in depth about this whenever we get to the Gisela episode, which probably needs to be the next one. 'Cause
All
she's
it
kinda
says is
main.
the idea seems to revolve around Shadowflux and Quintessence. So yes.
Shadowflux. Okay, I knew it was
Shadowflux
connected
is
to that. Okay, interesting.
And it is definitely connected to Elysian, according to the wiki, and they're usually pretty thorough.
Well, it's only
just
connected to
says-
Elysian in the way that Kenrick interrogated Fintan, and he was like, do you know what
Yes.
Stellar Lune is? And Orly's like, no, he doesn't, but Kenrick was actually reading his mind looking for Elysian, so he knew it would spark the memory.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's connected mentally
Okay.
somehow.
So we have Stellar Lune, we have Shadowflux and Quintessence, which are like light and dark,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, which somehow work together with Stellar Lune to create an ability that controls people, that also needs an empath to...
Oh, Gisela used Stellar Lune in her pre-pregnancy treatment and said
Yes,
it brings
that's what I
out
mean.
someone's full potential.
Yes, so all of this is connected to
Oh.
Elysian, which means it's all definitely connected to Keith's ability. So I'm going to say the human sanctuary thing is definitely on the right track. And Keith having something to do with selecting people. Because all of these words seem to connect to Keith, Elysian, and each other.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any
So
sense.
Yeah,
Keith would be
makes
at like the
sense.
center of it all. That's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Well, but the thing is, I wonder how that would work because Gisela or Gisela, I don't know, I say it everywhere, as we know, kind of brought that idea in and kind of made her son more important than he
Oh,
would have
yeah.
been, because obviously Keith wasn't alive back when Fintan started all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what the original plan was.
Right, and like, what's the discrepancy between Fintan's plan and Gisela's plan? Because he even tries to like kill her off, and I think I know why, and I'll get into that. But he tries to kill her off at one point, which means that like they're on the same side, but they don't have the same plan, and they're kind of fighting for who's like the main leader, who's really in charge. And so
Yeah.
I'm interested to see like what's the difference in their plans. Why can't they align exactly? Because Gisela, I think, was originally more in charge than Fintan, and Gethin even talks about this in flashback, but Gisela was more in charge. Fintan took over after he, sort of murdered her in Neverseen, and then after Vespera comes back in book 6, Fintan is just,
Sorta
like,
murdered
sidelined
her.
again. Yeah, he like, tried to murder her, but she was still alive. It's weird. Okay,
I wonder how old she is.
I don't know,
But yeah.
because elves can be so old, it's just
Yeah.
no way to know.
But she's not as old as Fintan because she's not an ancient.
No, but I wonder like
Fintan
who
is, like,
was on the
way
Neverseen
older.
first. Yeah, he's old, but he didn't turn until he was old, so I don't know.
I feel like Gisela can't be as old as, well,
Well,
I'm
she
not
has
sure.
like a young child, so she's got to be in like the low hundreds at least, like
It's been 200.
300 or younger. Because that's so
Okay.
young.
Give
Yeah.
us the information, Jaycie, and then we will put it all together.
All right, so this is a thing from book 1. This is page 388 to 389. It's Alden talking to Sophie. So Alden says, "Have you heard the name Fintan?" Sophie closed her eyes as a word pricked her consciousness. Balefire. Balefire was Fintan's trademark. It's a blue flame that requires no fuel. You've seen it in Atlantis. He sealed it inside the crystal spires to light the city. That was back when he was one of the counselors. He retired when pyrokinesis was banned, which he fully supported after what happened. So I'm going to stop. I think that he supported pyrokinesis being banned originally because, like I said in my other theory about the fire reflecting his, his mental state, I think that he didn't realize that it was going to be so unbearable to not create flame. And I think it was somewhat of a survivor's guilt thing. Like, oh, I survived.
Yes.
I killed these people. I should be punished.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like Elsa, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how she learns that she can hurt people with it and then is like, oh, okay, I'm going to contain this, but then
She can't. Yeah, exactly. That's a
I mean,
really
Fintan
good
is
about,
Elsa
like,
confirmed.
Yeah.
What were you
I
going to say?
kind of imagine, like, the abilities might be, it's a part of themselves, and it's
Mhm.
not, so it's like taking a part of yourself off, maybe like a limb. Imagine living without a limb
Mm-hmm.
by choice, and you're kind of like, oh, I think I could do it, but you don't realize how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Pretending like
But
you
it's
don't
a
have your
limb
left
that you
arm
can
or
get
something.
back. Yeah, it's a limb you can get back anytime.
It's more
just
like-
you have to go against everyone.
It's more like pretending that you don't have the limb. Like, you do have it, but if you use it, you'll
Yeah.
be in trouble.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
So your
Alright.
body can't really adapt if you actually have the ability.
Right. Because you have the thing that you're pretending not to have.
Is there anything to do with erasing abilities? I don't think there is.
Well,
or
like-
suppressing?
People, like, they gave Sophie the ability restrictor, and it was, like, really harmful to her brain, if that's what you mean.
No. Keith's ability.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it has
Oh,
anything.
I don't think it mutes
think
other people's
so.
abilities. It brings out, actually, their abilities more powerfully, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
If anyone's going to manifest, it makes them manifest right then. So like if Morella hadn't like naturally manifested as a pyrokinetic, because you remember Forkle had to like force her into manifesting, Keith's ability enables people like that whose abilities would probably just lie dormant, like they would never manifest just because they didn't have the right trigger at any point. His ability makes it manifest right then, which is helpful for especially more rare abilities like inflicting that people don't really have and so they aren't really tested for, or death scrying, or even pyrokinesis. Like, it's gonna let there be more pyrokinetics that people see, and even like, if it's just someone who's like theoretically talentless, but it's just because they never had the trigger correctly the way they needed it, Keith's ability
Yeah.
just automatically triggers them, which I think the Neverseen's vision for part of that might be like, we'll be able to, if anyone's just talentless because they just didn't manifest and they're past the age or under the age or whatever, this will just help them.
It's honestly like I'm looking at the Stellar Loon quote on the wiki right now. Says Lady Gisela also mentioned that Stellar Loon has something to do with potential. As she states,
Yeah.
all Stellar Loon does is use the natural forces in the world to bring out someone's full potential.
Yep.
Which again could really connect to Elysian and trying to figure out, like, assess everyone to figure out what their full potential is and use them for almost a like betterment of the race,
A better
kind of
world.
thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't that
Interesting.
connect to Counselor Derek too? Is it Derek or Tarek?
Tarek is the death
Tarek?
scryer.
Ah.
Yeah, because he
Yes.
can see people's full potential. So that's interesting. Because
Unless
he
speaking
he
of it, which is
says.
a theory.
Yeah, there's a theory, and I'm still like partly attached to this theory. And I don't remember what episode we discussed it in, but I think he's faking his ability. But if his ability isn't faked, and I have a whole reasoning behind this, Lily. It's a deep theory. I love it.
Yeah.
But
It makes a lot of sense too.
it makes too much sense. I
It's
think Sydney
definitely
found a hole, and then
a
I
valid-
found a hole in her
maybe.
hole.
Yeah, it's definitely a valid possibility.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's
That
right,
just gave
but
me,
it's,
like-
there's room for
But if
it.
Shannon did it, I'd be like, yeah, okay.
That would give me
Absolutely.
like creepy vibes though. I just got creepy vibes when you said that.
Oh, Tarek is so
Like,
creepy. He's
why?
always standing at the door whenever Sophie visits him. It's just there's
Oh wait, do we think? Who do we think is her dad at the moment? I don't remember.
Tiergan.
Tiergan. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
'Cause
geez.
It
thought
makes
it
a
was
lot of
Tarek.
sense.
We thought it was Tarek a little bit at one point because he's so creepy about Sophie.
No, Lily, listen to our most recent Parent Theories episode, the one where we talk about Tyrion, because, oh my goodness, like, there's literally no one who could convince me against the theory. It's, like, so...
Seriously?
I'm so happy about it, Lily. He's so sus. Tyrion, I'm just gonna do a slight rant on Tyrion. Okay, so he's literally, like, every time he comes into the series, he's so nervous around Sophie, especially when he first met her, and he was, like, super mad at Alden and Fitz, and then he would just look at her, and it was, like, his whole expression softened, and he, like, turned into shock, and then he was, like, who are you? Yo, you're the one. And that's what he said, you're the one.
In book one, when they have the
telepathy
little thing
sessions.
Where he takes her to, I think it's LA.
Oh, right, to the human.
It's so much like O'Reilly.
Yes.
That it's really suspicious.
Oh, there's so much stuff. They even say the same thing. Like, I go through this whole thing where they said parallel stuff. It's so creepy. It's so cool, though. I was so excited.
Okay, that is crazy.
Like, it's
I've never thought about that before.
And, like, their skin tones, like, Tyrion's skin is slightly darker than Sophie's, Orly's is slightly lighter.
Yeah.
Tyrion's hair is...
art.
Yeah, Tyrion's hair is, like, slightly a paler blonde, and Orly's is more of a golden blonde, but, like, if you cross it together, it makes Sophie's skin tone and hair tone. It's, like...
Yeah.
Like, Sydney literally did it with, like, her artistic stuff, and she was like, yeah, these shades put together make Sophie, and I was like, I knew it! Oh, man. But it makes so much sense, too, like, why he's always so, like, why did he come to the healing? Why was he the one to accompany Sophie to the healing when Grady couldn't come? Fintan's healing, I mean. Like, there's just so many little random details, like, why did this, why is he so worried about her all the time?
And
he's just this random member of the Black Swan.
Yeah, he's almost someone who, like O'Reilly, is so upfront that you're like, you dismiss him because it would be
too obvious.
Too obvious.
But
almost.
It's like
it's
you also
right
don't
there.
think of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so excited about that theory. Okay, so that's my rant on Tyrion for the day.
Yeah, Lily, go listen to that at some point.
It's so good. I'll figure out which one it is. But I was so excited. All right. So I'm gonna. What were you gonna say?
How did we get to Tarek?
It was just because of the potential thing with Stellarlyn.
Oh, yeah.
Which is all connected to pyrokinesis being banned somehow. I'm going to finish reading this quote I have from book 1, because it's a little bit longer.
Okay.
So this is, of course, before they know Fintan is evil, and so Alden was just saying, he retired when pyrokinesis was banned, which he fully supported after what happened. Morella said people died. Alden nodded. Because of Everblaze. I've never really understood the concept, but apparently there's a way to sense cosmic energy in the atmosphere, and if you pull enough of the force together, it will spark Everblaze. Fintan called it the fire of the sun on Earth. He was the only pyrokinetic who managed to ignite it and live. The others who tried were consumed by their own flame. That's poetic, and it also connects to the thing I was saying about them being unable to control their ability because of their insatiable desire. Yeah. Sophie shuddered. After that, the council forbade anyone, this is back to Alden, the council forbade anyone to learn pyrokinesis, and Fintan retired from the council because he couldn't serve without a special ability. But he stayed close friends with most of the counselors, keep that in mind, and he's the only elf alive who can start Everblaze, so you can see why the counselors might have a hard time believing he's capable of this. Do you think he's capable? Several seconds passed before Alden answered. He doesn't seem like the type. Plus, someone's been setting suspicious fires all year, the White Fires have been investigating, and while they showed some signs that they might be trying to spark Everblaze, I never found any conclusive evidence. The council is convinced that this is yet another example. Still, shouldn't they at least investigate the fires to be sure, especially since these ones are yellow like Everblaze? They still see no need. When the first suspicious fire started in San Diego, I asked them to put all the pyrokinetics under secret surveillance, including Fintan. There's been no suspicious activity, so they're confident an elf can't be behind them. So...
This was because Brant was doing it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Fintan had a close relationship with the council. It was very credible. He was seen as, like, what Alden even said, like, he doesn't seem like the type to do this. So this ties back to, like, the good Fintan that we keep seeing hints of, and that we will keep seeing hints of. But there's, like, a really good side to him, and I think his whole maniacal evil side only comes from that insatiable desire for flame. But, like, I don't think that, like, at his heart that he's truly, like, a maniac. Like, I would say Gethin probably is.
And this is funny to hear from you, who
I hate
Kenrick
him
so much.
Oh,
yeah.
I hate Fintan.
He's actually not that bad, but I hate him.
I hate him because he killed Kenrick, but he had a reason to, and I'll get into that.
Right.
It doesn't make it right at all. Fintan, but he was doing it because Kenrick had
Ends justify the means.
before the series, and justify the means, but it was more like a revenge thing. Before the series, Kenrick, without any justification or reason, like, he didn't tell the other counselors that he did this. The only person that he said he could trust with it was Orly, but he went and he interrogated Fintan, and Orly was like, you went to interrogate a former counselor who seemed particularly unstable, by the way. Like, she was really confused about why he would interrogate someone who was supposed to be, like, this credible, like, friend of the council, but he seemed kind of unstable. But anyway, that's not the point. So Fintan was mad because Kenrick was too close to finding out his plan. Kenrick knew too much, basically.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it was a personal thing. I don't know if it was just like, oh, you made me mad by interrogating me. I think it was just like, you know too much about this plan, and if the council hears about it, they're going to stop it. So this, I guess you're right, Sydney, ends justify the means. I'm going to kill you, even though, like, maybe they weren't even enemies. Maybe they were just, counselors, and Kenrick interrogated him, and Fintan was confused. But Fintan seems like the type who's very much able to, like, take his own feelings out of it and be like, okay, well, like, I need to kill you just because, like, so sorry, but you figured out my plan and I need this to happen for the betterment of the world.
Or not even you figured out my plan, but you have some information that I don't want you to let out.
You have too much. Because even within the Neverseen, we'll get to this whenever we get to the Lodestar quotes, but even within the Neverseen, Fintan compartmentalizes information so much, like, no one knows the full plan, and it's frustrating to them, but to him, it's for, like, if someone is captured and interrogated, he's just trying to preserve his vision.
In Legacy...
he thinks it all out.
In Legacy, how... Is Kenrick scared of what's coming? I don't remember exactly.
You mean in Everblaze? Kenrick isn't even mentioned in Legacy, so I'm not sure what you're talking about.
No, yes, Legacy, the memory.
Unlocked,
yes, sorry.
No, you're good. So he's very scared by Fintan's plan. He's actually, like, really in shock, and Orly's like, I remember from Orly's perspective, it was like she had never seen Kenrick like this before. Like, he always seemed calm. No, it was Sophie saying he always seemed to have, like, such calm confidence, and he seemed, like, really terrified and, like, shattered or something.
Wow.
It must have something to do with, like, cruelty to humans.
Well, I know that.
Or mass murder.
They have to be mass murdering humans. That's got to be the plan, because Fintan rants about this a lot.
Yeah, and then that whole thing with Keith where he says, if you save anyone in the room, they're all gonna die, but you gotta pick one.
And I think Fintan's kind of able to just murder people, and this is part of his unhingedness, was that guilt from murdering his friends, and then now he's just like, well, I did one, I might as well just do them all, I did a murder, so now I'm just gonna murder. I think, and that's the thing with a lot of, like, you'll see with, even in real life, with people whenever they do something bad, and they're like, well, I did it once, so, like, I might as well just do it more, because it's that all or nothing kind of behavior or mindset, especially, and it's more prevalent with the elves, I guess, because whether they murder one person or they murder 10 people, their consciousness is going to start shattering. So.
And then, back to him being friends with the council, that's just really interesting, and goes back to what we said about, like, the human prejudice, because he could have been, back then when he was friends with the council, he could have been like, he still liked humans or didn't have anything against them, or he could have had these developing feelings against, like, didn't like the humans and thought that they should be contained, and that may influence some prejudice in the council.
Yeah, absolutely, that makes sense, because I know that even, like, back before he left the council, or at some point in the past, there was a debate in the council over, like, whether or not they should end the human assistance program, and they eventually did, which means that there were more supporters of ending it. But, like, Bront, I think, was in favor of the human assistance program.
And Fintan definitely had a lot of interaction with humans. I just remember that from writing his side in the short story that we did, Jaycie.
He was a big part of the human assistance program. A hero in it.
Yeah, he was seen as a hero.
Yeah. And again, that touches on his good side, but I'll get to that whenever I read it. So that is that first excerpt, which is page 388 to 389. And then the next, this is the only other note I have from book one. And it's kind of small. It's from page 463, and it's just Alden talking to Sophie, I believe. The sample you collected proved the fires were Everblaze, and Fintan was arrested the day you and Dex disappeared, and he's been held in custody ever since, awaiting tribunal. So, that's like a whole development, but he's kind of, if you look in Unlocked, under like the files, I think him, Brant, and Morella are the only 3 named pyrokinetics. And so whenever they heard it was Everblaze, I know why they thought it was him. Because at that point, he was the only one who was said to be able to spark Everblaze. And he knew that the only other person who could spark Everblaze was Brant. But he didn't want anyone to know that Brant was like his, how does he put it? Like his, the person he trained.
Accomplice.
Yeah. And so, because he didn't want Brent to be known, he just kept it quiet and was like, yep, arrest me. I guess it's, and you'll see even in Exile, he's so resigned, which touches on his less maniacal side a little bit. But literally the day that, it says the day that Sophie and Dex disappeared, after they had already been proven that it was Everblaze, Fintan was arrested.
Yeah. Should we look at... I'm looking at his Unlocked page right now. Should we go through that real quick?
I looked at it, but all the stuff on there I already have notes of.
True.
Yeah. So...
Yes. You're right. Okay.
Alright, so, in Exile, the first kind of, event is just Alden being ordered to perform the memory break on Fintan. And him asking Sophie to do it with him, and he's like, if you say no, like, I'll walk up to the council right now and tell them no. But, of course she said yeah. So whenever they get down to Exile, I'm just going to go into reading the actual thing. Moist, frigid air blasted them when Alden pushed the door open, and a raspy voice said, I guess this means the council has decided to make good on their threats. Unless you'd like to make this easier on everyone, Alden told him. It's not too late. Oh, it's far too late. Far too late. The resignation in Fintan's voice pricked at Sophie's heart. Even if he'd brought this on himself, what must it be like knowing you're about to turn into one of the mindless drones filling the hallway with their lifeless whales? I'll admit, I didn't think they'd send you, Fintan added quietly. I guess I should see it as a compliment. They sent their star. Fast-forwarding a little bit. Besides, he added, shifting as much as his bonds would allow, some secrets are worth protecting. So you admit you are hiding something? Alden asked him. Fintan's hands curled around the metal arms of his chair, turning his knuckles white. Our world is broken, Alden, and all the council does about it is condemn anyone brave enough to acknowledge that we have a problem, break our minds, lock us deep in the earth, convince themselves that we're the criminals. But who are the ones ruining lives, destroying families, forbidding people from using their abilities, relegating them to working class? Pyrokinesis was forbidden because your insatiable craving for power killed 5 people. You supported the decision when you resigned from the council. That was a regrettable mistake, Fintan whispered, and I understood the need for change. But then I lived the life they'd relegated me to, treated like the talentless, with no way to satisfy my craving for flame. It's a daily struggle not to let my sanity slip away. I'm not so certain you've succeeded. So, that's kind of a lot to talk through, so I'll stop there.
Definitely huge connections to with being talentless.
Yeah.
And the prejudice against that.
So it's that stuff that I was mentioning earlier, but that's, Fintan, saying, I didn't think that the council would send you, Alden, hence that, he was kind of close with the counselors, and he didn't really think that they would, make good on his threats, like he implied. And Alden's like, it's not too late, Fintan. You can still take this back. And it even said, where it said the resignation in Fintan's voice pricked at Sophie's heart, it touches on his less maniacal side a little bit.
Mm-hmm. He almost seems like a mentally ill patient who is being blamed for something that he can't control instead of helped.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Not fully, but at least in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
And here he hasn't even, the only murder he committed by this point was accidental. He accidentally killed his friends, but he wasn't the one who sparked the Everblaze in the Forbidden City, so who's to say he was even a part of that? He did give the order to kill Syra, as we'll see. Wiley's mom. But, he hadn't directly killed anyone on purpose until book 3. And then continuing Fintan's rant after Alden, he said, treated like the talentless, it's a daily struggle not to let my sanity slip away. And then Alden's like, I'm not so certain you've succeeded. That's just a very interesting, very telling conversation.
Yes.
It does seem kind of, I don't know, cold on Alden's part.
I know.
His mind is already set that Fintan is the villain.
Mm-hmm. It's
and
a
that
very...
kind of...
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that kind of connects to maybe understanding Alver, too.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to put it on Alver, but, like,
true.
Just how maybe Alver felt like his dad had his mind fixed and could just not understand any other point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, they were blaming Fintan for something he didn't even do. Like, in the end, technically, he was hiding something, so they were right about that, but that's not why his mind was broken, correct?
Right, well, his mind was broken because he was keeping secrets from the council, and they thought it was connected to, like, why he set Everblaze in the Forbidden Cities. But Kenrick also knew, like, hey, this guy is hiding something big. He may not have let on to the council exactly how he knew that or what he knew, because it was probably illegal to interrogate Fintan the way he did, or just not, looked upon positively, or he may have wiped it from his mind. But whatever happened, Fintan was probably the one, Kenrick was probably the one pushing them to break Fintan, because he knew that he was hiding something important and something really bad, that, like, bad enough that he couldn't tell Orly because he was afraid for her sanity.
Yeah. I was just going to say, they technically broke his mind for something he didn't do, which is telling about the council. Yeah,
really. Like, he didn't set those fires. That was Brant, which is why they didn't see the suspicious activity, because it wasn't Fintan. So, like, it's very interesting to see, like, kind of like Mr. Forkel said, I think, in Neverseen, like, it's all a lovely shade of gray.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing. It's very gray.
Yes. Like, on
I
both
was literally
sides.
just thinking that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, I love that quote.
And
but, like,
how Fintan, Fintan is not one of those villains who's, like, backstabbing. He's not like a pirate.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't turn immediately on his comrades when he's in trouble. So that shows a lot about his character, that he didn't say, oh no, it was this other pyrokinetic, my prodigy. He was willing to take the blame.
Though it's almost only loyalty to pyrokinetics, because the way he treats the way he treats the other Neverseen members. I mean, he literally tries to kill Gisela.
That's true.
With Brant and Marilla, he has compassion.
I wonder,
so that's very FI.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if the reason he's trying to kill Gisela is because she doesn't have the same compassion for pyrokinesis. I wonder if the split in their visions is that she literally just wants power in the New World, and she just wants the New World to be just with her at the center and Keith, ready to take over, just her and Keith being like the center of it. But with Fintan, it's a much more of like a, oh, my roommate's returning. With Fintan, it's much more of like, he wants to help the elven people, and he wants to specifically help the pyrokinetics.
And fix the injustice. Well, Gisela might want to just take over and be in control. She doesn't seem very allied toward the talentless.
Yeah, I don't think Gisela has the same... I think that might be like the division in their vision, is Gisela wants to like help herself, and Fintan is more of like big picture compassion. Like, he wants to help the talentless and the pyrokinetics and all of that. And that's why he's so angry at her.
Towards the talentless?
Maybe not specifically towards the talentless, but I wonder if he can relate to them. I'm trying to think.
Well, just a second ago.
Yeah, even then he was like treated like the talentless. It was a daily struggle not to let my sanity slip away.
And the people he helps recruit usually have anger in that way, and I don't think he would be allied with
the
them
same
unless...
sort of.
Yeah.
And then the next...
He's being treated like a talentless, at least.
So he can relate to that on a personal level. And the next quote is kind of a continuation of the last little ramble. And that's only a small problem, Fintan added, his voice-building steam. Left to their own devices, the council will let everything we've built crumble to dust. Someone has to stand and fight for what matters, and while I'm not the one who cast the first sparks, I'm willing to help keep the flames alive. So obviously he's talking, like symbolically, like he's not the one who started the Neverseen, which is interesting. I wonder if that's why Gisela feels justified. That was Fintan.
Oh.
I wonder if Gisela, or even Vespera, and Gisela together were sort of the original people he found them and joined them, and then he was like, okay guys, let's like expand this vision to include these people who have to suppress their talents. And then they were like, no. And so he was like, cool, then I'll kill you. And at some point, you know, Vespera was actually somehow connected to the Forgotten Secret and stuffed away in that Luminaria. That's what it was. And so after she was off, Fintan was like, oh, I guess this is my chance to take over. So then you're good, Anna. Sorry, my roommate's in here. You're allowed to open the door or whatever you're planning on doing. You're good.
Hi, Anna.
They said hi.
You can't hear me. But...
Sydney said hi. But what was I gonna say? So I wonder if after Vespera was kind of out of the picture, he was like, oh, cool, this is my chance. And then he just, you know, murders Gisela really quick, and he's like, cool, I'm in charge now. Because he wanted...
It almost doesn't feel right that either of them started it.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't know who the other...
I feel like there should be more of an ultimate... Even, like, Vespera might be the ultimate one. I don't know
like
enough
another
about her.
villain. Yeah.
Yeah,
She
there
seems
feels like there
too-
should be...
Vespera seems like she's experimenting for experiment's sake.
Yeah, she's very...
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a villain who's similar to her. She's very interesting. Because everything she
Yeah.
does is, like, based upon the decisions and, like, trying to almost psychologically manipulate people into things. Because she's like, oh, well, I know the way you're going to choose. You're going to, you know, because of your heroism, you're going to choose your friends over you. Or because of... you know, you have the self-preserving instinct. You're going to make sure that you survive, you know, whatever it is.
I wonder if the
It
Neverseen
doesn't seem
used
like
to be
she
larger.
would have. Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
like it doesn't seem like, I don't know what you said, but it doesn't seem like Vesper would have the drive to just start something like that.
Right,
Like the
yeah.
Neverseen.
She's just playing around with it. So would
Yeah.
that be
It
Gisela?
It might have to be Gisela.
Interesting. That I could see that really, because she does seem like the ultimate villain so far. Like you were saying earlier, Sydney, she's just like evil, and like she has reasons, but it's like, what are her reasons? And I don't remember where I was going with that. I lost my train of thought
I
halfway
wonder
through.
if she started with focusing on the group and then realized after she had her son or became pregnant with her son, like, hey, I can take this over, and that's how it kind of changed. I don't know. Or I wonder if the Neverseen used to be larger, because if you think about the Jolie and Brant thing and how they used to meet and pass messages.
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
that makes sense, but at the same time, I wonder exactly like what these organizations looked like in the past, because the council didn't even believe that there were two organizations until book 3.
Yes. And isn't the Black Swan pretty ancient?
Yeah, I remember Forkel implying that there's been a Black Swan for a long time. He definitely wasn't the founder, and that he thinks there will always need to be a Black Swan just to hold the
Yes.
council accountable for their decisions.
I wonder if the Neverseen was the same way, and it's just kind of morphed. But that, again, doesn't feel quite right.
Here's a quick theory. I know why the Neverseen are winning, or at least this is my theory for why. Because their very means justify the ends, but they have a very clear end in mind. They know what they want, and all of these little
They're playing
things
offense.
they're doing. Yeah, all these things they're doing are to get to that goal. They're actually, you know, working towards that, which is why there doesn't exactly always need to be a Neverseen, because the Neverseen are just these hidden undercover agents until they can get to that perfect world that they're working towards. The Black Swan also, it doesn't have goals. I mean, they want a perfect world. They want to improve the world, but they don't really have a vision for what they want that to look like. You can even see that with Orly whenever Sophie's talking to her, because Orly's like, you know, I can see that there are a lot of problems in our world, and Sophie's like, well, what do you see as the answer? And Orly's like, I honestly don't know, but it starts with people like you who ask questions and, you know, don't let us, you know, they hold us accountable for, you know, the talentless and this sort of thing. Which is why Forkel's saying I think there needs to be a Black Swan to hold the council accountable. But the Black Swan is very much just like counter things as we come to it, you know, cross the bridge when we come to it, instead of like, this is our ultimate plan and this is how we get there, which is why the Black Swan doesn't justify the means with the ends, because they don't have an ends in mind. But that makes the Neverseen better at planning.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
It's
then
unpredictable to them, too, because they haven't really sat down and talked through what's the Neverseen's plan. They're just like, oh, the Neverseen are going to attack somebody.
Which
it's so
is what makes
frustrating.
that unlocked scene with Sophie she doesn't play. It's one of the only times she plays offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Which makes it
exactly.
interesting.
Mm-hmm. Because the Black Swan, they were shocked. They were like, this isn't what we do. You started a war. And she was like, dude, they've been attacking us for ages. And they're like, well, yeah, well, we've never fought back. I'm like, is that supposed to be good?
Yeah. So it seems like they're so used to just acting off other people.
Mhm.
Like, they act off the council, they act off the Neverseen, but they're not willing to take a step themselves, except maybe Sophie, the creation of Sophie,
Mm-hmm.
which makes that very interesting.
Yeah. And then continuing Fintan's thing. Yeah, it really is. It's like the people who have like a, the strategy for how they always win versus the people who just counter each move.
Yeah.
And that's why, the computer wins every time because the computer has a strategy for how to always win. And meanwhile, we're just reacting off the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Analogies. Okay. Fintan is like, someone had to stand up and fight for what matters. I'm not the one who cast the first specs. I'm willing to help keep the flames alive. And then Alden, I'm pretty sure that he was being really literal here. The flames have been extinguished, Alden shouted. Because he's like, what are you talking about, Fintan? We put out these Everblaze fires in the lost city. What are you talking about? It just went over his head completely. Fintan snorted a laugh. That's the funny thing about rebellions. You can't stop them until they've consumed everything that fuels them. And from where I sit, I see plenty of kindling. His eyes locked with Sophie's. She's as much a part of it as I am. Never forget that. Because in his mind, the Neverseen is just someone who doesn't agree with the council, who wants to fix the lost cities. That's his vision.
Yeah.
He doesn't care as much about, the whole making himself great stuff. He's just trying to make the lost cities a better place in a very ends justify the means sort of way, granted, but, he's seeing it as justification. So, he's seeing Sophie, a part of the Black Swan, as a very equal part of it to him. He's like, well, she also does not agree with the council, so, like, come at me, bro.
Yeah.
And he also says, from where I sit, I see plenty of kindling. So what he's saying is almost the same thing Orly's saying, like, Sophie, you're the type of person who can hold the council accountable for these decisions they're making. He's saying, yeah, you can hold them accountable for the decisions they're making and also push our vision instead of pushing the Black Swan's, vision, I guess, even though they don't have a clear one.
It kind of seems like Sophie has to just choose a path between the two at this point, like she did at the end of Unlocked.
Exactly.
She has to make her own decisions,
and I feel like
and
that
the
was
Black
really
Swan,
like the turning point in the series.
Yeah, exactly.
What were you gonna say? The
That's
Black
just
Swan.
Well, I was just gonna say, I forget that, but I remember I was gonna say, I just love that scene because Alden, like you said, was so literal, and Fintan just like, I can imagine him looking at him like, and he just responds back in an analogy, like, you can't understand me.
Yeah.
Yes. But also what Fintan was saying about, or kind of implying that Sophie is similar, is interesting, seeing as that's what Jaycie goes to every time she's trying to manipulate Sophie too. She's like, oh, you're just like me, we could work so well together.
See, Fintan, this is the thing about him, is he's really smart. So, and he isn't like smart in like the maniacal evil villain way like Vespera or Gisela. He's smart in like a very just strategic way. He's almost Loki-like. Like, he plays both sides almost, and it's hard to tell whether he's really truly evil, and he's got like a little insane side that like he sometimes turns to, but for the most part it's kind of a gray area. So it's interesting. He's a little less manipulative, of course, but I just mean Loki-like in the sense that he sort of walks the line, and you're like, well, I mean, you killed people, but like, do the ends justify the means? And so it's that sort of thing.
Well, definitely Loki, like the movie. I wouldn't say so much the TV show.
No, the show.
Loki
the show is a whole
changes
different
a lot
character
in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is the last little scene from when his mind is being broken, and Alden's like, okay, well then if you're not going to tell me anything, I'm going to break your mind. All the color had drained from Fintan's face, but he still gritted his teeth and said, I'm not the first to sacrifice myself for the cause, and I won't be the last. So he really sees this as like a noble sacrifice for the betterment of the world. And I guess at this point he even has faith that he's going to be healed. Like, he's not super afraid because he does have those cautions set up, I guess, if he is healed. Even though healing wasn't really even a concept then. But you can see both times that he's captured, both here and in book 6, or I think they talk to him in 7. He's very resigned to his fate, and he's very willing to sacrifice himself for the cause. So he's dedicated to it. It's not a drive for power like with Gisela. It's a drive for seeing this vision come about and seeing the betterment.
Yes, because think about if it were Gisela in that place, she would not let herself be taken out.
Right.
It's because she feels like her vision won't survive without her.
Well, her vision
And-
is that
and-
she's at the center of the
Yeah,
world, so.
exactly. Her and her son.
Yeah.
So that's interesting though, because often a person who like needs to have control often is less like at peace with themselves than a person who doesn't. So it's like either Fintan understands himself now, or he's so broken he's just like whatever goes, kind of. I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you mean. He's either just like, forget about all of the details, forget about safety, let's just accomplish this. I have the full drive to complete the vision. Or he's
Yeah.
like very, what was the other option that you said? He's like,
Like he feels like he's so broken, the talentless and just what the world has inflicted on him has made him so broken that he just, I guess, like, he doesn't care, he doesn't have as much obsession over what happens. He just needs to
He just wants
protect
it to
his
be right.
pyrokinetics.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, is he's very much just like, especially with Morella, he's very much just like, let me take you under my wing, I'm just gonna like teach you the
Yeah.
stuff, like for no reason. He doesn't like force people to do stuff. He wanted to do it. He made a deal with Sophie. He was like, okay, I'll give you this information if you let me train Morella. They didn't have to like bribe him into it. He had to bribe them into it, which makes
Yeah.
sense in the fact that they didn't trust him, but it's also like interesting that he would be that specifically, needing to do that.
It's like he
Yeah.
comes to the end of his purpose, but then he still has a purpose because of Morella. He ends up totally broken, but then it's
And he really is very, Gethin kind of explains the entire plan of the Neverseen, or not the entire plan, but a lot of insight into what's going on inside of it, in flashback, right before he, like, explodes Sophie's bones. And so one of the things he says is, like, yeah, Fintan really is useless, and, like, I don't care about him, and also, like, the catches are fake. So, like, he's telling the truth, and we know that because we know the catches are fake, which Fintan wasn't letting on, so, Fintan wasn't being totally honest, but at the same time, Gethin was being honest in those moments, and Gethin's also insane, so, like, he just says things now.
Oh, Gethin, we totally forgot about him earlier.
Yeah, I
Oh.
was gonna say.
I just mentioned him
We
being
forgot
crazy a
about
few
him.
times. I don't really know why he turned evil, but we can get into him, because we're not even halfway through my notes on Fintan.
Yeah, we've talked about him being a potential threat too, but that's for another day.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jaycie.
And so Fintan, once he's captured in book 6, really is, I think, useless to the Neverseen, and I think he has been cast aside. I don't want to say this and be wrong, because it's always a possibility that this is just a trick like what they did with Alvar. But I really don't think that he's a part of their plan. I think that Gisela doesn't want him to be a part of their plan, because it takes the focus off of her, and it puts the focus on the talentless and on the pyrokinetics. So I would say that it's pretty credible that he is just wanting to, at this point, he just wants to help the pyrokinetics.
He's a chess piece that's been taken off the board.
Yeah. And then, Everblaze is the next one. That's all the notes I had from Exile. So, obviously, in Everblaze, he kills Kenrick. Was that on purpose? I think it was on purpose. And Kenrick and Orly implies that her and Kenrick feared for Kenrick's life. In Neverseen, like, she said that they suspected that his life was in danger, which means that Kenrick was literally like, yeah, so I read this guy's mind. He didn't tell Orly this part, but in his head, he was like, yeah, I read this guy's mind. He knows that I know too much. I'm gonna specifically be in danger. And then he told Orly, hey, my life is in danger. I think Fintan's going to try to target me. I wonder if there was some specific, like, just clear animosity between Kenrick and Fintan at any point, like maybe before Fintan's mind was broken, if it was clear during the tribunal, because remember they said that Fintan was awaiting a tribunal with the council, so I wonder if it was clear then that Fintan just hated Kenrick, or just he wanted him dead, and so Kenrick knew once they were healing him, oh yeah, I'm probably gonna die. Because we didn't see Fintan's trial at all.
Yeah.
So something probably happened there. Anyway. And then also, how did he survive? Yeah, I just thought of that. That was completely random.
Wow.
That had to be interesting, because Kenrick, I bet he didn't erase his mind. I bet he remembered that thing, because that was whenever he asked Orly to leave with him, so I bet he wanted to remember.
But that just made me realize, like, just how important Kenrick was. Not, like, I love him, obviously, but when I read the book at first, I was like, oh, I'm just sad because he died, and he was an amazing character. But now, like,
layers.
if he lived,
oh, there's another layer,
he
too.
would have changed the complete game. Like, that's just crazy.
And he was, like, super close friends with Alden, and was, like, the point of contact between the council and Sophie, which is why after he dies, and, like, the end of book 3, the council turns so strongly against Sophie, because as we see in Exile, he's a really good persuasive speaker, so he would swing their thoughts in favor of Sophie all the time, just from being able to show them where they were being logically inconsistent, and where they, they shouldn't do this because this is wrong. Basic empathy, people.
Yeah.
Which I just realized I described TIFE, which makes it confirmed ENTP. Anyway.
What episode is it that we talked about this a lot?
I think maybe our Exile episode.
Okay.
Because that's the end of Exile, where he convinces them. It might have been one of the parent
one where
episodes.
You bring up the theory. Jaycie has this theory, Lili, that if you haven't listened, you should listen to. That Shannon, or it's not exactly was it a theory, or is it based on something Shannon's confirmed? Okay.
I had a lot of theories about Kenrick.
That Shannon has a lot of background on the adult characters that we don't know about.
Oh, that was from whenever... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it just keeps coming up, and so Jaycie has a whole theory. Isn't it, like you just said, that Kenrick and Alden were friends? Is that what it was? Kenrick
and Alden are really good friends, yeah.
Yes.
Because there's this scene where it's like, he was just coming over to talk to Alden, and they were just, Sophie and Keith, like, fell out of the sky because Sophie was teleporting, and then Kenrick and Alden just, like, teased each other about it, and Kenrick is like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you made this guy squeal. Like, they were just having, like, friendly, like, talk and, like, having fun.
And I think there's something that Shannon has said where she has a lot more background on the characters that she took out. Yes, I forget where she said that. Yeah. But anyway, it makes a lot of sense if you think about the different things about, like, people interrupting marriages and that sort of thing with the adult characters.
Yeah, the quick summary in the background of that is, here's, like, the main points. I know that Kenrick knows Fallon Vacker kind of well. Sure, he's a former counselor, but I wonder if Kenrick has more ties with the Vackers than we know about, just because Fallon told Orly to marry Kenrick or something. Then like the more clear connections are like Alden seems to talk to Kenrick a lot. He has meetings with him all the time. That's his point of contact on the council. I wonder if he's specifically an emissary for Kenrick. And he's like, whenever after Kenrick like jokes around with him that one time, he's like, "See you later, my friends." And then he's also, whenever he's telling Sophie, because that was whenever Kenrick came to Alden, and he was like, "Hey, the council's gonna order her to perform a healing on Fintan now, but like if she doesn't want to do this because she's a child, I want her to be safe. So if she doesn't want to do this, tell me, I will convince the council otherwise, even though they're ordering her." And so that's even what Alden tells Sophie. He's like, "Yeah, Kenrick visited me, said all of this, but he said that if you don't want to do it, he will tell the council no." So he's just very like honest with Alden and upfront, and just he uses Alden as his point of contact to keep Sophie safe, which is very interesting. Like, why does he need or why does he specifically choose Alden? I think because they were just close friends before the series. And then you also can see whenever Kenrick is dead, it's like completely wrecks Alden. It's not just like this random counselor, but Alden's like literally sobbing. So it's just a lot of, there's a few other things I'm probably forgetting, but there's a lot of evidence pointing to they were pretty close friends. I don't exactly remember how that connects, other than I remember saying that Kenrick was a really important character. There are a lot of things. Like, he needed to stay on the council as much as Orly did at that point, just because they were both so, like, integral to making sure the council didn't just fall to nothingness. It went pretty bad after he died.
Anyway.
Yeah, whenever he died, everything went bad. Sophie had the ability restrictor. Then they actually fought the Neverseen in person for the first time, and then the council like kicked everybody out, and It's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
it's chaos, which shows you how much he was holding back, like how much rhetorical ability he had to convince them, like, hey, you shouldn't do this. Like, he was really smart about, like, knowing how to talk to people and knowing how to talk them into something, show them where they're being inconsistent and where they're being the people. Like, he actually, in Exile, he's like, you're really going to punish a child for trying to get her abilities fixed? Or what did he say? He basically was like, oh, they were trying to punish Grady for letting Sophie fly on Sylvanie or something. And he's like, if you do this, we're being as cool and reckless as the rebels we're trying to stop. And he, like, has this whole speech, and it's so well put. And I was just like, this is why the council went crazy when he was gone, because he was able to talk common sense to them, and they respected him and listened to him because he could do it so well and so empathetically. But once he was gone, it went badly.
And last thing about Kenrick before we get back, that really shows how Shannon, as an author, had to get rid of him in order to move the plot along.
Yeah.
So there was a double reason. She might not have even thought about that, like, that Fintan had to get rid of him because he had too much information, but so did Shannon.
Yeah, because Shannon was like, he's holding back too much. I need chaos to happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Relatable.
And then
for writing, I mean.
Yeah. She I bet she coordinated that. She was like, what's the name for writing? But I bet she coordinated that. She was like, okay, I need to get rid of him because he's gonna be too helpful, but, like, who else should need to get rid of him? Oh, I can make this happen where, like, he had this background with Fintan. This actually makes sense. It connects everything. Awesome. We're moving forward with this plan.
Or she could have done it the other way. We don't know.
Yeah. Or Fintan needs to get rid of him. Oh, perfect. So do I, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works out.
So then this is whenever Sophie's reading Fintan's mind whenever she's trying to heal him. Sophie chased the worm trail. This is right after she inflicted an emotion. I think it's pride. Yes, she inflicted pride, I believe. Sophie chased the worm trail, weaving and dipping and climbing and dropping until they reached a row of images that seemed almost connected. So Sophie thought that if she inflicted pride, he'd be proud of his achievement in creating Everblaze, and she'd be able to see the person that he tried to create the Everblaze. But instead, these are the memories she has. A younger, kinder Fintan bowed and accepted his counselor's crown. A somewhat older, more serious Fintan stopped the firestorm of an erupting volcano and saved a large family of apatosaurs. A mishmash of smiling people he'd helped, both human and elven, glimpses of places he'd visited and struggles he'd braved. He used to be a good person, Sophie thought quietly. But this was all before pyrokinesis was banned, Fitz reminded her. That is key. Again, before pyrokinesis was banned, he didn't have that insanity.
Yeah.
Fitz was right. In fact, most of the scenes looked ancient, and many of them involved fire, but there was a distinct lack of glowing neon yellow. So he hadn't had to create Everblaze then, because he didn't have that insatiable craving taking over. So that's just, it's so interesting. And then actually, I don't have this quoted, but I know this happens. So whenever Sophie does want to find, like, the memory of it, it's under his regrets. It's not something he's proud of. It's not, a happy memory or a triumphant memory. It's under his regrets.
Yes.
Which is just very interesting. Makes me
and
very
this is,
deep
you're talking about the memory of him accidentally murdering his friends.
Yes, but
Not
even
that
the
you
part...
can accidentally murder someone, but,
But, like, the part... Well, it was really an accident.
Self-defense.
Yeah. It
I mean,
wasn't
not
even...
self-defense, like, insanity.
Wait,
sorry.
no.
It was... No,
It's called
what happened was he called down...
manslaughter.
Yeah, he called down the
That's what
Everblaze.
thank you, Lily. I said accidental murder, and then I was like, the definition of murder
Is
mock
intentional.
trial stuff. You get
Yeah.
it.
He called on the fire, and then no one could stop the fire, and then it burnt his friends. So it none of it was intentional. He was just training them, but then they couldn't control it.
Yep.
And I wonder if that was because they didn't have that desperate need to the way he did.
I'm pretty sure, again, contrasting him and Gisela, if she had been in that situation, murdering someone probably wouldn't be in her regrets. She would be like, oh, it makes me a colder person. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if she even has emotion. Because Keith didn't even suspect her for years, so I wonder if she just keeps herself completely numb about it. Interesting.
Ugh, she's scary.
Yeah. And then continuing the healing thing, I'm not sure how Fintan escaped. I don't know if you guys have any theories about that, but Fitz says on page 306 he didn't even feel Fintan move. And then Alden said Kenrick charged Fintan when the room started raining Everblaze. He managed to shove you, Fitz, and Orly away, but then Fintan's body exploded with flames. So Alden saw Fintan explode with flames. That was actually how the whole thing was ignited.
Turn into flames.
How did he? I'm just so confused because we know that.
Random theory.
Well, that's like a theory, but it was Everblaze, and we know that pyrokinetics can be killed by Everblaze. So that's what happened to his friends. So I'm so confused. I don't.
Yeah,
can you
Shannon
turn into
had a
Everblaze?
lot of explaining.
I don't understand. I don't. I've seen things like he learned ogre face shifting, but that doesn't make sense because he was on fire. Anyway, and then
I wonder if there could be something to do with light leaping. I don't know how.
Well, we know that like fire reacts weirdly to crystals because in Neverseen, whenever there's like a circle of Everblaze or something, Sophie throws her pendant at it and it like makes fire go everywhere. Yeah. I don't remember the exact details of that, but I know that the pendants kind of react with it weirdly.
I want to figure this out.
I know. There's no way to do it though with the information we have.
Your body exploding in flames. What could that mean? Like to where he's literally on fire.
Could it be an illusion? Can he do that?
Could it? Or could he literally be so one with the fire that it has
so one with the fire?
I know.
Is he so desperate for the flame at that point? Well, I know that he was frozen. Like, he literally said, like, his eyes were frozen closed or something. So I don't know if he could just, like, warm up a little bit. And then as soon as he was, you know, not icy, he knew to control the fire. Because he seemed to be able to control Everblaze.
Okay, so tell me why we know you can be burnt by Everblaze.
Because his friends died from it.
Okay, I wonder if only the people who called down the Everblaze.
Well, he was burnt by it too in the memory. Because it was like he looked down at his hands, his first burns, but he was alive.
Or maybe if you don't resist it.
Wasn't Brant burned by Everblaze?
He was branded, I think.
He was just...
he was burned by
his facial features are messed up by it, yeah.
I wonder if you want it, like, fully? I don't know. If there's something...
Like,
I don't know if there's something different.
Mind over matter type of thing.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering. Like, if you have this extreme level of
some sort of, like, weird Neverseen training, like what they did to Keith.
Yeah.
Not exactly, like, some sort of letting the full desire for Everblaze take over, because the whole... It's also weird that he called it there, right? Because it was so cold. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, what happened was, and I'm about to read the scene where they say this, but there was a glass ceiling, so he could see the sky above him.
Yes. But I wonder if it has something to do with the level of craving you have.
Yeah.
And, like, the level of regret or guilt you
desperation
have about
for
it.
the flame.
Yeah, desperation. And whether it doesn't hurt you as much.
Yeah, because I don't know... I like the theory if he just calls it to him until he's literally just warmed himself up to normal temperature, and then at this point, at this desperation, he can actually control the flame. Because in the memory, he couldn't control it. It said, like, he shouted commands, but it didn't listen. But I wonder if at this point, whenever he's matching that insatiable level of desire for the flame that the flame has for burning, if since he's on equal terms with it, he can command it to, like, okay, now move away from me and just kill everyone else. I'm leaving. That'd be interesting.
Except that it's on him.
Right, but he's, like, super cold. So think about if you throw an ice block in the fire, or, like, something frozen inside an ice block in the fire. First it has to melt the ice, and then it can actually incinerate whatever's inside of the ice. So I wonder, since he's kind of frozen almost into an ice block at this point, if he lets it burn him until he gets to, like, you know, just him, and then he's like, okay, cool, stop.
So
but that doesn't sound like a Shannon explanation.
Yeah,
that sounds like a science logic explanation. It's not a Shannon one.
It's too logical.
I don't know. I have really no idea. Anyway, so this is the next kind of scene after Sophie leaves the healing, and, you know, she's gotten the thing with Fitz, she's come back, found out Kenrick's dead. This is just interesting, and you can almost see a parallel happening with Orly, and you'll see why. Sophie resisted the slumberberry tea before bed, and without it, and without a way to reach Sylvanay, she found sleep impossible. She finally crawled out of bed and spent the rest of the night curled up on the floor near her window, staring at the stars. They looked different now that she'd seen how deadly their fire could be. She wondered if the council felt the same. Did they stay awake all night, regretting holding Fintan's healing in a room with a glass ceiling? They should. Mm-hmm. So why had they chosen that tower? Did they fear some sort of rescue by the dwarves who'd gone missing if they'd kept them underground? Or was there a darker, more sinister reason? Doubt was such a curious thing. Like lenses over her eyes, it blurred the lines between shadow and light, making everything murky and gray. Anything could mean anything, or it could simply mean nothing at all. She knew only that the council was capable of cold, unkind things, and how she was powerless to do anything about it. Or was she? That's, first of all, beautifully written.
Was that a hint to a spy?
That's
Beautiful.
Well, throughout all of Everblaze, there's a lot of like hints towards there being a spy on the council, and then she eventually dismisses the theory. My theory was always Tarek because he's creepy. Yeah. I think Tarek's a spy.
We've discussed that before.
Mm-hmm.
That sounded like a serious hint towards a spy.
Mm-hmm.
Like why did they hold it in a room with a glass ceiling?
And I bet Tarek was like, let's use this because it's cold, and they're all like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Shannon doesn't just drop stuff like that.
Because Tarek was suspicious in this book so much. He was literally, walked up to Fintan right before he burnt down the whole stinging building and killed Kenrick, and he touched him, and he was like, yep, I sense no potential for danger, so, let's get back to the healing. And I'm like, dude, literally 3 seconds later, he kills Kenrick. And also, I remember after he did that, who was it I was really concerned? Almost Kenrick was concerned? I think it was Kenrick, but I could be remembering wrong. And he was like, I don't know. And Orly's like, well, Tarek, Fintan's feeling everything and nothing at the same time. Surely that could confuse your desk crying? You know, trying to just, guys, everyone get along, please. But let's hear both sides of this. And so it's just very interesting. Tarek is so suspicious. Like, how is there no, that's, him saying right then, there's no potential for danger means, and I know there's no emotional connection to it. Either you're faking your ability or you're evil.
Mm-hmm. Or both.
And I could see the both.
Especially because potential is so vague.
Yeah.
Like, I sense no potential in the air.
And now we have Keith who can actually sense and, control potential almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, here's an interesting thing. Sydney's like, just. Was this a thing
you should see the faces I'm making right now.
Sydney's like, little sus, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I wonder though, because you know what they did with Brunt, where they had part of his DNA to create Sophie's inflicting ability, but he wasn't Sophie's dad? I wonder if it's the same sort of thing with Tarek and Keith. Because he is sort of fatherly to Keith in book 3 or something. He's like, oh, Keith, I was young and rebellious like you once, and now look at me. And Keith is like, yeah, you look like an elf.
I still just think he's faking it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he could definitely be faking it.
It's 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then with Keith's new ability, then that could be the opportunity to reveal Tarek.
Right.
If Keith can actually sense things.
Because he can whenever he held the twins' hand, Dex's triplet's hand, who was a froster, he felt cold. Whenever he felt the other one's hand, it was slimy. And what was he a phaser? I don't remember. But
oh yeah, it was I forget.
It was sort of related, and so I wonder if what would happen if he held Sophie's hand? He's just gonna fall over. It's gonna be all of it.
Isn't that what happened?
I don't remember. No, he grabs Sophie's hand, and it overwhelms him, and he does, the stop thing or something.
And falls over.
Yeah. That's a problem. Let's just, really quick, that's a problem for Q-Foster shippers, if they can't even hold hands.
It'll work. It'll get there.
I think Keith's gonna die.
No!
I think he's gonna die. I made a meme about this, and everyone, went crazy about it. I think he has to die.
Did we discuss this, or did you just come up with
this?
I
just made a meme. I think I just made a meme of it, and you were like, Jaycie, what?
Yeah. Okay, that's another conversation for another time.
It is another conversation, and I have, no real proof for it, but Shannon's got it. Other than Shannon, one, Shannon has to kill someone because she hasn't killed people. Two,
Yeah, like
there's
I
no
don't
way
like
to
this.
redeem Keith. Like, by redeem, I mean he has this ability. He can't get rid of it. He can't be with Sophie, but obviously they can't not, like, they can't
I
just
don't
make
like
Fitsby
this.
happen.
That's such a
Okay.
terrible ending. Oh my gosh, though.
That would be a
well,
Shannon
my
thing to
author
do.
side, my author side is like that would be so dramatic.
It would
and
be
I love
so
it.
dramatic. It would be
Uh-huh.
so cool, but it would be sad. It would be so sad.
My
At the
reader
same
side is
time,
like,
I would-
no.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a satisfying ending, though. I would be left
No.
feeling
You would be,
cheated.
yeah. Everyone would be like, yeah, you've been
Well, there
deceiving
needs to be
me.
something else.
It would
like
be so
something after.
dark.
I
No, I
wonder-
love it and I hate it.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly it. I wonder if he dies and then there's some way to like bring him back or something. That's like the worst
Ooh,
way
I
to do
love
it,
those.
but yeah,
Yeah, I love
they're the worst, but I love them.
yeah.
so cliche, but like works every
Exactly,
time.
exactly. Yeah, and I feel like Shannon could pull it off where it's not cliche. If anyone could, Shannon could. If
We
she
have
can
a
do, if she
Tangled
can do
scene.
that, if Shannon can do that, you know, love and then dying thing, like she did with Orly and Kenrick, and then still make it so complex and make them both important characters. Because that's kind of a cliche too. It's like being in love and then someone dying. Then she can do it with Sophie and Keith,
Yes.
being in love, someone dying, and then you know, like we want Kenrick to come back and we can see it happening in a way that's not cliche. I think she could do that with Keith.
Mm-hmm.
She's good at this.
And then maybe he has this like moment where he goes to like in Harry Potter, where Harry Potter I mean everyone has read Harry Potter,
Oh,
but spoilers if
the
you haven't read Harry
in-between.
Potter. Where he dies and then goes into that like white place,
Mm-hmm.
where, like the train station,
Yeah,
and
the
then he
Elven
gets sent back by
afterlife.
Dumbledore. Yeah.
That would be so cool.
Forkle sends him back.
Forkle's saying, nah, the Forkle twin. He's like, you don't belong here. You're not even 100 yet.
You're like 14.
All right.
How old is he? Like 16?
He's
I think?
16 or 17. No, because Sophie's 15, right? Yeah, and he's only
Yeah, but
1 year
he's-
older than her, so he's got to be 16.
Or
I'm
the
older
same
than the
age.
characters? Whoa.
I know, it's weird.
Oh, no. That made me feel weird.
It's because there was a delay.
Yeah, because I read up to book 4 when I was like 12, and they were like 15 then, or 14? And they
14.
were
and we,
older
we were
than me.
14 too, I believe.
I was, I don't know. I don't remember.
know.
2016? I was 12. Yeah, because I read
Oh.
Lodestar when it came out.
Yeah, but then they
Yeah.
stayed 14 for a while. Anyway, back to
It
Fintan.
must have been 14 when Flashback came out. Ooh, that's unfortunate. Anyway, back to Fintan.
Oh my.
Neverseen. So that's the next book. What is this one? Oh, right. This is just a random little mention on page 432, connecting to the thing I've mentioned a few times already. Sophie is talking. She says, think of how much the ban on pyrokinesis has made the Neverseen members what they are. That's why Fintan rebelled. So that's like confirmation. We were right about that. And then that's why Fintan rebelled, and why Brant joined the Neverseen. If being talentless hadn't made him a bad match for Jolie, their story might have had a very different ending.
Exactly.
So it's like a confirmation of our theories so far.
So she's assuming, I guess, the whole Neverseen, but really it's just Brant and Fintan who are fueled by being talentless.
Yeah, I feel like some of them have like personal gain stuff, and then some of them have like talentless anger, or bad match anger, pyrokinetic anger, or just that sense of indignant injustice. Or some of them have a mix of both. So like Alvar has that mix of both, where he's like, well, I wasn't even talentless, and you guys still aren't respecting me the same amount that you like my brother. That sort of thing.
Though I still feel like there's more to the Vacker legacy. Honestly.
I get the feeling, but I could see Shannon just being like, you guys way overthought this.
Yeah, I could see that.
I could
But-
see it either way.
But it just, Alvar's story doesn't make enough sense.
Yeah, it would feel like a waste to just make it a big
just doesn't.
thing.
Because Alvar shouldn't have that much to be angry about.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, his parents may not love him as much or something like that.
Well, I'm
but
gonna pull
he's
in...
literally in the most...
Sorry, finish what you were saying.
He's literally in one of the most influential positions in his, like, as that family member. Surely he can earn validation in some other way than rebelling against the system. Like,
Well, I
there's
think it
something
could be a
else.
personality thing.
Yeah, that's
It could
exactly
be
what I was about to say.
personality.
I was going to jump into psychoanalysis and be like, I think he's an Enneagram 3, probably wing 4. So with, the unhealthy 3, they're seeking validation, but they don't just want to be, validated in small ways. They want the ultimate, they want these big achievements that they can feel self-validated. Because it's not just like finding, a person to validate you as much as they feel like almost ashamed for existing, and they want to like prove that they're worthy of existence.
I guess,
and then with
why
the
would
4, the unhealthy 4 wing, it's like a victim complex, and so he's like, well, these people on the Neverseen, they're offering me, this chance to have influence and to be important and to be able to fix this, and I'll be seen as great. And so that's...
Yeah, I guess my thought is, why would he go to the Neverseen? Why not try to earn respect in the normal way?
Because he probably felt like it wasn't working.
As a
Possibly.
4, and if he has some 4 in him, I would say, like, often the unhealthy way to be a 4 is, like, you just have to be different. And there's just
Yeah.
this obsession within you, and you can't explain it. But if he's, like, in this backer legacy, and he feels like everyone is trying to conform him, and he still wants to be, like, the thing about 4 is you want to be like everyone else, but at the same time you want to be super unique. And so often that just drives you to be completely different and do crazy things. So it may just be a personality thing. Like, he just had to do something different.
I can really
to
see
stand
that,
out.
especially the 3 wing 4 thing with the mix of like wanting to be the most important and wanting to be different. And he's overlooked for his younger brother, especially being an oldest child. That can probably be really frustrating for him, because as the oldest child, you want to be seen as like the leader of your siblings, but instead he's just like forgotten about. Like, he's not even mentioned until book 2, and he sort of makes a joke about it, because Sophie's like, oh, you have an older brother, and Alvar's like, ha, I see you guys talk about me a lot, but like, as an oldest child myself, I can see that would crush me. Like, if I went home from college and someone was like, you have an older sister, I'd be like, oh, I see how much you talk about me, and I'd probably make a joke about it in the moment.
Is your siblings, someone told me something like that happened at church.
Oh. Nice.
Literally.
They were like,
I'm very sorry, but that's...
No, it's good. That proves my point. That's what I'm saying, is like, and it's not because they don't love him, because, obviously my family loves me. It's just like, not even an out of sight, out of mind thing, which I think is what Alvar jokes
You're not
about
a 3,
too. But it's like,
wing
yeah,
4.
I'm not a 3, I'm an 8, so like, I don't care. But like, I feel like for someone who is a 3, like with my friend Brooks, he's a 3 wing 4. He would not be okay. I would have to have a whole therapy session with him.
You should ask him what would happen if suddenly he came back and his, like, that kind of thing happened.
I would text him about it right now, but I feel like he'd be super confused and probably call me, so I'm gonna wait till I'm in person. He'd be like, Jaycie, did that happen to you? Are you okay?
Technically, yes, but...
Yes, but I'm not hurt by it. It's for experiment. Like what you did, Sydney, where you were like, so if I liked your best friend for science.
Oh, okay. Don't mention that.
It was so
Sorry.
funny.
Moving on. That's a long
We do
story,
experimentation in real life for Keeper of Velocities for you guys listening to this, and so we'll just
I
ask
asked
people
that-
things. Are you gonna?
Let's just say I asked the wrong person the wrong question.
And I was
And
like,
it
what? And I was like, see, you. I told you were gonna scare him.
I promise. Yeah. He wasn't that scared. Okay.
It was funny.
Anyway, back to Fintan.
Yes, back to Fintan.
Going back.
Focusing. So this is on page 618 of Neverseen. And this is kind of a Beyonce's asking the Neverseen, like, basically, why are you doing this? She's asking Brant and Fintan.
What book is this? Sorry.
Neverseen.
Okay.
618, page 618. Biana stepped in front of Callus, shielding her from the fire. How could you do this to the gnomes after everything they've done for the lost cities? To expose the council's lies, Brant said. Now everyone knows how much they hide and how little protection they truly give their people. Which accomplishes what? Sophie asked. All you've done is make people afraid. Indeed, Miss Foster, Fintan agreed, and fear is the world's greatest motivator. Look at the power your group harnessed today as a result of your terror. His eyes moved to Keith as he added, that was your mother's mistake. She surrendered to her fear, and it cost her everything.
Oh, okay. This goes back to what okay, sorry. I just got excited. It goes back to what I was saying about them being the council and everyone else giving into fear, and even Fintan himself giving into fear of himself. And then now he's saying fear is the world's greatest motivator, as if he knows something about it, and that she surrendered to fear and it cost her everything. That's really deep.
Yes.
Really
Fintan
deep. I
is
love
super
that.
deep. He's a very
Wow.
complex character, and he's, like I said, he's a very calculating type. Everything he says is smart, but not the maniacal smart. He's just calculating smart.
Yeah, like,
Which makes him
I guess
so
it's-
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
it's interesting to me that Shannon put that in there, and you can tie it back to his backstory if you think about it. But no one would, unless they were doing something like this, would think about that quote tying into his backstory.
Yeah, it's really easy, like, without going deeply into Fintan's backstory like this and understanding all of this about him, it's easy just to see him as the maniacal villain, and I think that's the mistake that the Black Swan is making, is they're just seeing the Neverseen as this connection of random maniacs, instead of some people with this very carefully thought out plan, but they're able to present themselves as maniacal enough that the Black Swan are just like, no, you're just crazy, but when they really do have a plan.
So interesting.
Yes.
That made me excited.
There's
Thank you.
so much depth. And then what was the one other thing I wanted to? Oh, right. He said that she surrendered to her fear and it cost her everything, which is interesting because at the moment, I think my theory is he killed her because not only, she what was she afraid of, I guess. I know that she killed Syra she gave Syra the hairpins. That's it. She got Syra to make the hairpins. Do you remember those, like with the Starstones?
Oh, he's talking about Gisela here, right?
Yeah, that was about
Yeah.
Gisela. But Gisela,
What fear did she give into?
that's what I'm not sure about. I wonder if it was
Yeah.
her. If he's talking super deep, he could be like psychoanalyzing almost, and like she gave into her fear of becoming irrelevant, to not being the leader. It cost her everything because she's focusing on the wrong thing. But I think that he killed her because, one, their visions didn't align, and two, she let Syra into their plans and Syra wasn't on their side, and Fintan was like, dude, what are you doing? We never give anyone information. And Gisela's like, oh, well, I just needed this for my plan. And he's like, no, you don't do that. And then he's like, Gethin, you're the assassin. Go off her. Because that's what happened, is Fintan gave Gethin the order to kill Syra because Gisela gave her information to make the Starstones. And so...
But this also seems to be connected to when he killed Gisela. Or Gisela.
I don't know. Like he said that she gave into her fear, it cost her everything. So whatever
What
it
is her
is,
fear? We're gonna have to talk about that when we get to her.
because she, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah,
The
That's
only thing
something
that I can
there.
possibly think of is just her not thinking that she's like relevant enough. That doesn't make totally sense though. Like, is Fintan
I
that
mean-
psychoanalytical? That's more Vespera.
I mean, he kind of is.
He sort of is, but interesting.
Imagine, okay, so like, MBTI wise, FI works where if you're, I mean, I'm just assuming Fintan's FI, just randomly, but where if you see something in someone else that you recognize in yourself, like what would Fintan see in her that he recognizes? Fear, because he was afraid of what he'd done. Oh, could it be, was she having guilt
About
over Syra or someone else?
I don't. Maybe. Does she seem like the guilt type? Yeah, maybe. The only thing I could think of is her being guilty over, like, jeopardizing Keith's safety. And that's why she goes so numb to it.
Or fear of being a monster, kind of?
Yeah.
Because he says,
Or
fear
maybe
is the
she
world's
does-
greatest motivator. Look at the power your group harnessed today as a result of your terror. That was your mother's
Yeah.
mistake. She surrendered to her fear. Kind of like, I don't know.
What if she fears that, like, Keith, if she actually loved Keith, assuming that she did, that he wouldn't love her back or see her for what she was doing? I don't know. That's all I'm thinking about.
Or if she had, like, some crazy, desperate way to make her plan. I don't know.
There's
have to
so
come back
much
to
vague
this.
information because I don't have information on her yet, so.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to this.
Yeah.
In hers. Mental note.
And I have, like, a doc saved with master notes, like, little notes on all of the Neverseen members that I randomly found while looking for Fintan stuff. So I didn't look in depth for like Alvar or for Gisela. But if I ran across something that related to her, I just also put it under her name and saved it for whenever I create her entire file. So I do have these notes saved for you.
Good.
Okay, the next book, Lodestar. That's like all of Fintan's main things in Neverseen, all his important stuff. So in Lodestar, first of all, this is Keith and Sophie's telepathic conversation while he's on the Neverseen. Keith talking first. Did you know Fintan has a catch? And not the one I stole from you and gave to him. He has one from back when he was a counselor. Alvar told me. He asked how I'm holding up after the Foxfire incident, making sure it wasn't affecting my sanity, and getting all big brothery about it. Gross, Sophie interrupted.
What page is this?
This is 158. You're good.
Thanks.
I know, but I was able to ask him how Fintan's mind didn't shatter after what he did to Kenrick. He told me Fintan knows how to wipe his own memories and locks anything dark but crucial away in his catch before he purges it from his mind so he doesn't have to live with it. So that's the thing that, like, Fintan knows how to wipe his own mind somehow.
Mm-hmm.
This is just the only relevant things, the only super important things in this are Fintan has a catch, and this is whenever they're first realizing that, but it's from when he was a counselor, so it doesn't just have, like, Neverseen stuff on it. It has council secrets. So if they do get that catch, which I think they have now, from the storehouse, what that's probably going to have on it is information about back whenever there was a human assistance program and they got rid of that. Like, what really happened? What are the details of that? Who was against it? Who was for it? What does that have to do with everything?
Mm-hmm. What's also interesting about this is that he wipes his own memories to keep from going insane, while again contrasting him to I keep doing this, but it's because I guess they're so contrasted even in the books that they don't get along. Gisela or Gisela, in that she's kind of like,
she's just like, oh well,
we need to become numb. We like, she aligns with Vespera and wants to become numb while he takes the easy way out, I guess, kind of.
And here's another thing. He doesn't exactly forget because he implies, like, he talks about killing Kenrick all the time. In Neverseen, whenever he reveals himself to be alive, he's like, surprise, and, like, he talks directly to Orly at one point. And then in Lodestar, whenever he appears at the Peace Summit, you know, he says, like, the security here is murder, like, specifically looking at Orly when he says it. So he knows that he killed Kenrick, and he brings it up, so I don't know exactly how he wiped it from his mind. I wonder if that's just like a cover thing, or he just doesn't think about it, and he says he wiped it from his mind so people don't think he's weak on the Neverseen. I don't know.
Yeah.
But does he wipe his memories because he doesn't think he can handle it, or because he, like, knows his limitations? That might be the same thing. But, like, does he wipe his memories because he has the healthy knowledge of, like, his human limitations, and that he can't live with those memories, whereas Gisela just wipes her, she just numbs herself to it and loses her humanity because of it.
I don't know, because that makes sense, and at the same time it's like he knows, he at least seems to know that something happened, like someone died, and he looks specifically at Orly, so he knows it's connected to her. So I don't know what exactly he erased. If he just erased where he saw it, I don't know. Because he remembers killing his friends. Like, if he knew how to wipe his mind, why wouldn't he erase that? Was that just to caution him against becoming too crazy? Like, it's interesting that he knows how to wipe his own memories, but he kept that one.
Yeah.
The overall
maybe that's to remind him of his motive.
Yeah. That's interesting. And that's almost like a compassionate side of him. In a weird way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna remember this to keep myself from going to this length again.
Yeah. Again, it's almost like Gisela or Gisela doesn't want
Just
to
choose
feel
one.
her emotions. Yeah, I know, I really do need to.
I think it's Gisela. That's how I've seen it.
Gisela. Okay, anyway. It's just the whole theme of insanity and having to purge something from your mind to keep from going insane. It's like there's something working against, there's a part of them that's working against becoming cold and numb. And some of them want to, like, get rid of it. Gisela does. And then Fintan, I guess, is justifying becoming cold by the ends. I don't know. It's just, I can't quite get out what I'm trying to say. But it's just very interesting, the whole insanity
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, right. That's sort of a theme to the insanity thing on both sides, because I guess I'm just doing like hot takes now because I said Kiva's going to die, but I think Orly's going to shatter. She's going to go insane. She's been fighting it, and you can see like whenever she does fight it, she'll be pale. She'll say, oh, you know, I'm sorry about that, like apologize for things that weren't really her fault. Like in Lodestar, she apologizes for Wiley being captured, which literally has nothing to do with her, but she's like feels personally responsible to the point of where she's like in tears. So it's really interesting to see, I guess, because we even know that empaths shatter more easily, but she's fought it this long, even though she's blamed herself for Forkel dying, she's blamed herself for Kenrick dying, she's blamed herself for Sophie being unmatchable. She had to experience the full guilt of Sophie being angry with her. She's, you know, still even in Unlocked, and I feel like that's just going to escalate until she does shatter. There might be like one last straw, but that's going to be an event, and Sophie will have to heal her, and it'll be interesting to see Sophie be like, I'm so mad at you, but now I have to help you, and I don't want to.
I hope you're right.
I have people on both sides of this, because Sydney thinks that Sophie would heal Orly in that position. I have my doubts, and my roommate, who actually is also, loves Keeper of the Lost Cities, she's on my side. She does not think Sophie will heal Orly. I'm kind of in the middle, but I'm leaning towards the, like, I don't think she, I think that if she did, she would have to be convinced for, like, the entire book. She would have to have a reason to do it. Sydney's like, nah, she would just do it right away. I don't know. And you'll see whenever we talk about the short story, I don't have very much faith in Sophie.
Yeah, you really don't.
I don't either.
What'd you say, Lily?
I don't either. Sophie is just, like, how she acted towards Orly, it's very frustrating.
Like, she turned against her as soon as... She turned completely against her.
But she's not against her. You can be angry at someone and still be on their side.
She doesn't even want to work with her to open Kenrick's catch. Like, she was literally dreading that. She was like,
I understand.
No, Kenrick's catch. She hasn't done it yet. It was at the end of Unlocked. She was like, I got Kenrick's catch, and I guess that means I have to work with the counselor I don't want to talk about.
Did we say she's a 9? I don't remember.
Sophie, I don't know. She's not quite 9-ish enough, especially after reading Lynn's short story. I think Sophie might just be a 4.
I don't want her to be a 4, but okay.
An unhealthy 4. Because, well, at least in the early book she was, because she was...
definitely was in the book.
Yeah, because she had, like, early the victim complex, too, then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what she is now, but I could see 4. I could just see childish, immature, unhealthy 4. Because I may know one of those here, and, it's not the INFJ I know. It's a different one.
I do understand that she's mad at Orly in some way, but it's still like.
Well, I get that you.
I think y'all are giving her a bad rap.
Here's the thing. Orly didn't do anything wrong. Like, sure, she disobeyed the council, but that was to help. So first of all, because she wanted a child. Second of all, because she wanted to help the world. So it wasn't even ends justify the means. The means were fine. The ends were fine. All of that was justified. The only thing that was technically illegal is that you're not allowed to have a kid on the council. So she was doing this all for the good of her world and for her own personal benefit. But it was, they were in alignment. So there was nothing selfish or wrong about what Orly did. Sure, Sophie's frustrated because she can't be matchable, but Orly's done everything she can to help that. Orly hasn't said that, I'm never leaving the council. Once these things settle down, like, Sophie doesn't even have time to get married right now. What is she worried about? And, like, on top of that, like, what Sophie's whole thing has been that she might not even register for the match. She might just rebel against the system just for fun. And then whenever she started dating Fitz, she changed her whole mind on that. But that wasn't of her own volition. That was because Fitz was like, no, we're done if you won't be registered for the match. When she couldn't, that's when she got frustrated. But originally, that wasn't even Sophie's plan. So Sophie's been, I guess, changing her opinion on this a lot and overcomplicating things that don't have to be overcomplicated. And so...
I agree, but I don't think that has an effect on her a life or death situation.
What do you mean?
The life or death situation of if Orally were to shatter. I agree that Sophie's unpredictable, but I don't think that... I don't think her anger goes that far.
I don't know.
Not right now, maybe.
Yeah.
But she'd have to change her path to veer it off that way.
Yeah.
So I think at the moment she would heal Orally. 100%.
I think... I think that she'd come around to it. I don't think that she'd be especially excited about it at first. I think it would take convincing.
Well, I think if
Maybe.
Even if it's
Orly's
just
mind broke-
self-convincing.
But then again, Riley is her friend. I mean, she was
She
her friend.
was. Sophie hates her now.
But not hates
Well,
her
No,
to
she
the point
hates
of
her.
wanting her to die.
She doesn't want her
No,
to
I
die,
don't
but she
think
doesn't want to
that,
see her either. She doesn't want to be inside her
think if-
mind. Sorry, go, Lily.
If Orly had a mind break or something drastic happened to her, then that would make Sophie realize how
Mhm.
much
Yeah.
Orly has done for her. But it would take
That's what I
something
think.
like that right now.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
wasn't saying that she's completely against her at all.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think
Take
that
See,
the
I
drastic
agree
event.
with you, Lily.
I think that it would just, once Orly shatters, Sophie's not gonna immediately be like, oh, let me heal you. I think that there's gonna be like, even if it's just like a self-processing realization,
Oh, really?
I think that Sophie's gonna just need to think for a second. I think that she'll come to the conclusion that she should heal her, but I think that there's gonna be like a whole like, what do I think about this sort of thing. I have no faith in Sophie though, so
I
like
don't
take that
know.
with a grain of salt. I don't know.
You have no faith.
Maybe
yeah.
for
Well,
a
I have-
split second, but I have more faith
Yeah.
in Sophie than you.
Yeah, I have a little more.
Because
Okay,
even
back
like,
to Fintan.
yeah, this
Yeah,
is
we
completely
can
off
go back
topic.
to Fintan.
And so anyway,
This happens every time, Lily, as you probably know.
yeah, that's why they're so long. The next part is the ogres on page 197 of Lodestar. This is really random, but Grady's like, the ogres unleashing the plague was definitely the boldest move that they'd made, but I doubt they would have made it without the Neverseen's urging. They sat on the plague for millennia and only acted when Fintan suggested it. So I don't know exactly what the ogres, what happened there, but they like allied with the Neverseen, I guess because of what King Dimitar sort of goes into in the Peace Summit, where he's like, listen, I just want you guys to like respect me and like leave me alone. And so I think that maybe he was just feeling like he wasn't respected enough, and he just needed a little bit of convincing, and Fintan was like, hey, if you unleash that thing, it will make people not trust the council. And Dimitar was like, I mean, why not? So it's sort of just an aside thing, but it's interesting that Fintan was the one to suggest it, so that was part of his plan.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how that helps his case at all, other
Me
than just
neither.
undermining the trust in the council.
Yeah.
Which is the fear. Oh, that's the fear. He wanted to control people.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing. Page 337. They still don't trust you, Sophie noted, and then this is her talking to Keith, and then Keith says, not completely, but Fintan doesn't trust anyone completely. Everyone only gets to know a tiny piece of his plans, and he only gives each person a single task for every mission. That way, everyone's expendable. So that's another hint to, like, maybe why he wanted Syra dead is, like, she knew too much, or same thing with Kenrick. He doesn't like anyone else knowing too much of the plan because he's, like, scared that it won't come about. And he probably knows about the darkness that has to happen for it to come about. And he's afraid that if someone knows about that darkness, then they'll be like, oh, whoa, let's not do this. The ends don't justify the means. But he's so convinced they do, and just that nobody else can see it the way he can.
I wonder if he was ever betrayed.
What if him and... This is such a random theory. This has no backing whatsoever. But what if him and Kenrick used to be good friends? Super random. What if Kenrick took over Fintan's spot on the council? Ooh.
There could be some backstory if they're because they were both.
Because they have a connection. Like, Kenrick specifically was like, now I'm going to interrogate Fintan. Like, what? Why did you think he was suspicious to begin with, Kenrick? Like, there is something more.
I wonder, is there not a little more we know about, is this my imagination? Or is there more we know about what actually happened when he accidentally killed his friends?
No, we just know that they were there. They were making Everblaze, like he was training them to create Everblaze. They all called it down, but then it wouldn't obey any of their commands, and then it burnt them, and then Fintan was like, oh.
Was Everblaze allowed because it was new?
That was like the first time they tested it, so it wasn't legal at that point. He was still on the council.
Still, I wonder if someone... I don't know.
I mean, he's been
It's
betrayed by
just, if someone is
Gisela.
this
She tried
afraid-
to off him. She tried to kick him off.
But he doesn't really care about Gisela, does he?
No, not really. Well, that's
It's
because...
just,
It could be because she forced him not to, because... I don't know.
Keith paints him as paranoid. I wonder if he's a 6.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And then
Like
he's
6
so
and 5.
loyal to the pyrokinetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wonder what made him this way.
It could even just be having been on the council and knowing how many secrets the counselors can hide. He's just like, everyone's hiding secrets.
Yeah.
And the one Six I
Interesting.
know is who's very textbook Six. She's very like very loyal, like you said, but also just has this independent sense of like herself and knows what's right or wrong and will follow that.
Mm-hmm.
So that does seem a lot like Fintan.
Yeah, 6s are very loyal.
Mm-hmm.
I know 2. 3 maybe.
I have 6 in my tri-type.
And they like pick a group and stick with it.
Yeah, that's very
It's
true.
interesting.
Like
It's very
no
hard.
so
matter
it-
what.
Very telling about.
It's very hard to find a new friend group as someone with the 6 as my second number in my tri-type. It's very hard.
Mhm. Well, that and they literally pick a group and are like, I will die for this group.
Yeah. Well,
If
unless
you're
my
in your
8 tells
inner
me, unless
circle.
my 8 tells me I'm tired of someone.
You're
Anyway,
gone.
and then I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm never talking to you again.
No, both 6s I know I have seen angry at someone betraying their friends.
Oop.
So,
Ooh.
Exciting. So that's
Anyway.
interesting. And then, oh right, this is just Fintan training Keith in the Forbidden Cities. In the memory, Fintan smiled at something Keith said, and Sophie's insides twisted. I hate that he's the one training you. He's not even an empath. I know, but all the one-on-one time I'm getting with him is crucial if I'm going to seal his catch. Plus, there aren't any other empaths to train me. I asked why, and he said, it's rare to find those who are open to new sensations. Then, fast-forwarding a little bit, mostly he says, tell me what they're feeling, and points to some random person in the crowd. It only gets weird at the end. Before he brings me back to the hideout, he always asks, if you could only save one of these people, who would you save? That's terrifying. I know, I totally thought he was going to burn down the city, and I had no idea what I'd do if he did, but he just scratched his chin and asked why I chose the person. He always writes down my answer in this little notebook he keeps in his pocket. Most of the time he tilts it up so I can't see what he's writing, but a couple of days ago it was windy and the pages kept flipping, so he held it at a different angle, and it looked like he's making a list, but I have no idea of what. The label at the top said Criterion. So,
I wonder if he's trying to trigger Keith's ability he doesn't even have yet.
Does he know? No, he doesn't know about Stellar Loon. That's the thing. I bet Gisela didn't even let Fintan in to her full plan about Keith.
So Fintan's literally just writing down a list of like
People-
characteristics Keith thinks
Respects
are
for
interesting.
some reason. Why does he like Keith then? Maybe Gisela like implied Keith would be important, so Fintan's like maybe there's
Yeah.
something important about him, but he doesn't know what Stellar Loon is, so he doesn't know the full extent of it.
Or he might know that there's gonna be something about Keith sensing potential, but he doesn't have the ability yet. And so he's trying to figure it out because he's not with Gisela, so he doesn't know
He doesn't know
that
the full
Stellar Loon
extent
is going to
of the plan.
trigger it. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes
he's
sense.
just trying
But
to
would
like
he-
figure out why is this kid something to do with the human sanctuary, blah blah blah.
Why would he want Keith's ability to be triggered though? Would that benefit him? If it's just Sila's plan and he just cares about talentless?
He
and
has
stuff?
something to do with the human sanctuaries too somehow.
Oh right.
I don't
yeah.
know why exactly.
Well, Fintan wants. Let's see. What does Keith have to do with it?
Keith has a lot to do with it.
Well, Keith has the
I'm
ability,
thinking
or
Keith
will have the
is-
ability to control people eventually.
Control people and sense their potential. So he's very vital to the human sanctuary. So if Fintan wants him, it's because he's at least somewhat interested in the human sanctuary thing. But it's definitely Gisela's thing more. I don't know. It all connects in my head.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I could see Fintan being interested in the human sanctuary and that plan, but doesn't he say even that Gisela is focused on the wrong things? I don't know.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Because what he wants is justice, right?
Yeah. Just justice
More
for the people
than
who are.
control. So I don't even know
yeah.
why he'd be so upset about the human sanctuaries unless he wants, like, freedom, and that means
No, he has a
having
whole
the
rant
whole
about
Earth.
humans. He has a whole separate thing with humans.
Oh, you're
We'll
right.
get to it.
Okay, let's get to that because that's gonna be
Yeah. So really quick, the other things that I have before his rant about humans. Keith randomly says on page 370, "I'm sure all the counselors have all kinds of secret defenses that Fintan knows about." So that goes to his paranoia a little bit, probably. Fintan's been on the council. He knows that the council always has these secret defenses that he has to worry about. And then let me skim this and see if it has anything relevant. Fintan's blaming. Fintan blamed Rui and Brant for Wiley's escape whenever they captured Wiley that one time. And then it's like, Fintan's threatening to change their role in some big project coming up, and Keith doesn't know what it is. And
He's definitely a paranoid 6.
yeah. So, Fintan was like, "Oh, you guys made a mistake. You're not important anymore." And so, whenever I guess he ended up not changing the plan, but he thought about it. And that was I'm assuming, whenever they break Luminaria. But Alvar and Rui were both a part of it, if I remember correctly.
Are you saying Roy?
It's pronounced Rui.
Really?
I don't know why, but it is. I don't.
Okay.
It feels weird. And then Keith saying Fintan started venting about Brant and Rui and how frustrating it is to work with people who disappoint him again and again. And then he said he's counting on me to live up to my potential. Potential for what? Sophie asked. And then back to Keith. He didn't say, but I took a chance and asked if he wanted me to do the empath lie detector thing when he meets with King Dimitar. I told him I was worried the ogres were going to double-cross us, and he seemed impressed that I was thinking about things like that. So Fintan's like, "Oh, Keith's paranoid too. I'm so proud of him."
Real. Good job, Keith. Like,
knowing how to manipulate him without even knowing, like, all the psychoanalysis. It's Keith's an empath, it's to be expected. And then Fintan said it's good to see that I care so strongly about his vision. And of course, he didn't say what a vision is, but then he draped his arm around my shoulders, and the Sophie goes, "Ah!" And Keith was like, "Yeah, I wanted to shove him away, trust me. But I held still."
Why is this almost heartwarming?
I know. I held still and listened while he told me he's worried about the ogres too. And then he said that he gave King Dimitar an assignment to prove they can work together, kind of like a test. That's so 6-ish. Oh my goodness. And he's like loyal to Keith for no reason. Yeah. Oh.
He probably felt betrayed.
Oh no! Why do I feel bad for Fintan? I hate
Why
that
do
so
I feel
much.
bad for Fintan too?
I hate that so much. What's this timestamp? I'm gonna have to use that for the intro where we're freaking out. 1:35.
Wow.
I'm mad at me.
Well, it's because we're finding out Fintan may not be as bad as we thought.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay. And
this
then,
makes his relationship with Morella.
I know. It's like, I trust him not. He better not be evil. I'll be so mad.
The murderer better not be evil, The one that murdered your favorite character.
I know.
He better not.
This is so confusing. And then they mentioned this on page 401, the Lodestar Initiative, and Keith says, it starts to feel like they're doing some sort of gathering. It almost feels like Fintan has this list of people and information he needs, and he's checking them off one by one. So it's him, like, all by himself, setting up this Luminaria thing, checking off, like, okay, this person's in position, this information I have is here, and he's really intricately planned this, and he's also really paranoidly planned this. Like, each person has their one little role and can't know what anyone else's role is except theirs. So that's just interesting, because that whole thing, which all tearing down Luminaria did, is undermine the trust of the council, and then they accidentally got back Vespera, but we don't know if that was intentional or not. Like, we don't know if they knew that she was there. So, very interesting.
Sure they did.
Okay, they did? I don't know.
Because
Orly
that's
didn't
why they
even
sent
know.
Gethin. That's why they sent Gethin there.
Oh.
To tear it down so she could escape. Yep.
So yeah, but a big part of that, again, was the controlling people with fear thing.
Yeah. Because he's controlled by fear.
Yes. Okay, and then the next thing, still in Lodestar, is Fintan actually talking. So this is his rant about the problem is humans. Near the end of Lodestar.
What page is this?
It starts on page 627.
Thank you.
Here we go. Fintan's eyes focused on Sophie, his lips curling into a smile that gave her prickles. The problem is humans. What do we do, Fintan asked, with a species that's clever enough to build and create, and yet foolish enough to design its own ruin? Creatures so violent, they're always at war, but with others of their own kind. Creatures that destroy everything they touch, including this planet we're all forced to share. Creatures so prolific, they've consumed the majority of productive lands, and yet even the counselors themselves refuse to classify them as intelligent. Creatures we hold to no treaties, no codes of honor, no laws except their own flawed logic. Creatures that don't even know we exist. His eyes roved around the table before coming to rest again on Sophie. To them, we're nothing more than silly stories and legends. We're magical, mythical, credited to their own fanciful imaginations. And should they discover our existence, their only response would be violence. And yet what has our council done about it? Another clever way of distracting us from the actual issues at hand, Counselor Emery said. At this rate, the summit will stretch on indefinitely. We can't have that, Fintan told him. I have a timeline to stick to. A timeline for what? Queen Hilda asked. The realization of my vision. So,
Okay.
yeah.
This is more, it might be more paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's scared of them. He says, and should they discover our existence, their only response will be violence.
Mm-hmm. So this whole rant about humans, he's like, they're a problem, but they're a problem because I'm scared of them, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They make him anxious.
There's too many of them. They're violent. They don't even know we exist, and if they did, they would hurt us. So we have to control them.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So he has a weird little thing about them.
Yeah, again, Gisela is more, they're stupid. Why are we letting them be there when we could have all that land? And he's like, they're scary. Get rid of them. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
All right, my next thing is, the building being torn down was his plan, the whole thing that happens there with Luminaria. And then the next book, Nightfall, I don't have a ton of notes from, just because I don't have the Kindle version, but we do remember Fintan's in it. He's working alongside Vespera, and he gets captured at the end, and then he gets to set the terms, which makes Orly really angry, because, she has this really specific reason for hating him. But then he also wants to train Morella. Sophie and Keith have, a sort of meeting with him, and he's like, well, my request is that you let me train Morella. And they're like, what? Because they think that he's going to try to, recruit her. So that's, the main things that happen in Nightfall. Now I'll move on to Flashback, because there's not really much from that. Page 9, right at the beginning, it kind of gives a summary of the Nightfall thing again. Fintan had cut a deal with the council for his cooperation, so he was currently being held in a prison built specifically for him in exchange for sharing the location of a small supply of the antidote to Saporidine, the dangerous sedative the Neverseen had developed for some still undetermined purpose. He'd also demanded that all telepaths be kept far away to ensure that no one can mess with his memories, and while the council did make him at least agree to help them gain access to his old catch, a small marble-sized gadget that contained forgotten secrets, either Fintan was sabotaging the process, or they were flawed inventions, because weeks had passed and they hadn't recovered a single piece of information. So, specifically about the Saporidine, that the dangerous sedative the Neverseen had developed for some still undetermined purpose, I'm pretty sure that that's just to, put the humans to sleep so they're, easier to take care of. So I wonder if in Fintan's version, where he didn't know that Keith could control people, he was just like, okay, so we'll use this because I don't know how else to make the humans cooperate.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem... Because that's what they even do to Sophie's parents.
Yeah, that sounds potentially possible.
Mm-hmm. And then we know why the catch isn't working. And we find out in a second when Gethin, tells everyone their plan. You think he's planning something, Keith guessed. Don't you? This is Sophie and Keith talking about Fintan. And then it says, Fintan had already proven that he was the master of long, intricate schemes. He destroyed Luminaria and freed Vespera from the castle's dungeon with a plan that required key members of the Neverseen to allow themselves to be imprisoned. He could just be pulling a similar trick again, and Sophie knew that she would find out if the council would just let her meet with him. But all of her requests for a visit had been denied, and when she'd asked the Black Swans Collective for help, they told her the council wasn't giving them access either. Why is Fintan still calling the shots, she murmured. He already gave us the antidote. So I think that just ties into the whole, like, he was friends with the council thing before, and so they still have this, like, soft spot for him. They still see the good side of him, while Sophie's like, okay, we made the deal that he wouldn't talk to telepaths or me, and he gave us the antidote. We did that trade, but now that we have it and we have nothing left to lose, like, we already, he upheld his side of the deal, let's just break our side since we've already gotten what we needed. So she has, Neverseen logic, where it's like, I'll make a deal with you, but that deal's gonna last as long as it profits me, and then I'm going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Did you see the bottom of page 10? I don't know what it's like for you, but...
Did I see the what?
This is interesting. Like, I'm just looking on that same page. This is interesting to talk about for the Neverseen as a whole, where Sophie says, even if he's not part of some bigger scheme, Fintan has to at least know what Vesper is planning. And then Keith says, but he won't know what my mom's up to. And she's the one running things now. And then Sophie says, she's not entirely convinced that's true. Lady Gisela had seized control of the Neverseen when she tried to destroy Atlantis. But Vespera only allied with her because Keith's mom trapped her in a force field, etc., etc. So, that's just interesting. And then they're like, we have too many villains.
Yeah, I think I might have part of
That's
that. And I actually don't. But I remember seeing that, yeah. And then page 89, fast forward a bunch. Gethin, oh, this is it. This is what the thing I was talking about. He said, I told you, Alvar is worthless, and Fintan has no place with us any longer. So that is actually, the Alvar is worthless thing is not true, but he could be being deceptive. He could be talking like, oh, like, big picture, though, like, he's with us because he's worthless. So he could be like...
And this is Gethin?
Yeah. And he's, like, a maniac, so, like, whatever. But, he says Alvar is worthless and Fintan has no place with us any longer. So I wonder if he didn't know about the plan for Alvar. I don't... does anyone remember what actually happened?
No.
So I don't...
Not in flashback.
I don't know. So it could be going either way, but I feel like I believe the part about Fintan no longer having a place on the Neverseen, because what seems to be the case is like Gethin is just like devoted loyal to whoever's the current leader at that moment. So whenever Fintan was in charge and Gisela was gone, he was just like, well, Gisela, I'm glad she's dead. Like, Fintan, I'm following you with all my heart. And then as soon as Fintan was gone and Gisela's back, he's like, I never liked that guy anyway, Gisela, you were always the real leader. So I
Gethin's smart.
He's smart, and he knows how to play the leader, and or like play them as in make them feel like he's devoted. But I feel like he kind of is. I feel like he's just like, he's kind of the assassin. Like Fintan sent...
Yeah.
Oh, here's the passage. Page 91. Syra had been a flasher, and Lady Gisela had blackmailed her into making special starstones, and then Fintan had Syra killed in order to make sure she couldn't tell anyone. And then Fintan sent Gethin to do some sort of mind trick to break Syra's connection as she tried to leave home, causing her to fade away right in front of her son. And I think the second half of that is on page 103. So, like, Gethin is kind of their assassin, which makes no sense. Our telepath's mind's just stronger than everyone else's. Like, why is there one designated guy? Is he just crazy? And they were just like, yeah, he's fine. I don't know.
He's just happy as long as he's killing people.
Yeah, he's just like, stab Forkle, kill Syra, I'm just gonna do stuff. Like, this guy's got, I don't know. This guy's weird. He's creepy. And the whole thing, like, here where he's like, I'm just gonna, like, torture Sophie, and he's just, like, enjoying it so much. And then he just, like, looks down at his sword, and he's like, maybe I'll find another use for it someday. And even when he's threatening Worley, he's like, wouldn't it be ironic if I used the sword to cut off your head? So he's just, like, so eager to, like, cause violence, which is really weird for an elf. So he could have an interesting backstory. I don't know.
Yeah, he has to.
Remember how, Jaycie, remember how in Unlocked, at the end of her whole Neverseen rant, where Sophie is like, writing down all the stuff about the Neverseen, she says something like, I feel like, let me look at it. It's right here. I'm not sure. Anyway, but do you remember when we theorized about maybe Gethin stepping out of the shadows and becoming more prominent? Because I know we theorized about that for some reason. Just a thought.
Yeah, that feels like something we've talked about. I could see it. I mean, he's pretty important. He's just unpredictable enough that, like, he could be a cool main villain.
Yeah.
But he's not strategic enough to hold up the
He's not.
Neverseen.
Unless he
He
is.
hasn't really come up a lot in the series, though. He's just always been the sideline behind Gisela and Fintan,
Right.
I feel
Yeah.
like.
He's just their assassin.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just wondering why we theorized that before.
I don't
I
know.
don't remember.
We haven't really gone in depth about the Neverseen much, so.
No.
It was probably just because we sensed that thing of him just like hiding in the shadows, and we took that as like, oh, maybe he's gonna become important. But I think it's not that. I think he's just there.
But I do hope Shannon has some backstory on him.
Yeah, I'd like to know why he's like
Another
this.
unanswered question. Yeah.
Exactly.
So many.
Let's see. Oh, Gethin. So this is Gethin kind of being frustrated with Fintan's approach to being in charge of the Neverseen. It's on page 103 and 104 in flashback. It's while he's like in front of all of the kids and he's like about to explode their bones. And it's like Wiley's hands crackled with threads of light as he stalked to the edge of his green bubble. If you knew I wasn't there, why did you keep calling me a liar during my interrogation? Which means Gethin knew Wiley wasn't at the place where his mother died because, you know, Gethin was the one who killed her. So he's saying, if you knew I wasn't there, why were you telling me I was lying when I said I didn't know what happened? And Gethin sighed. I didn't. That's the problem with compartmentalizing information. Fintan and Brant only had certain pieces of the story because they weren't supposed to be focusing on your mother at that point. But Fintan adjusted the timeline when he took over, and I wasn't around to fill him in on the many ways he was mistaken. So now I'm trying to get us back on track and adjust for Vespera's additions. So that's interesting because for a lot of the time that Fintan was in charge, Gethin was actually captured, in Luminaria. And I think Lili had to go. Her AirPods were like about to die. So,
No, I'm here. I'm just
Oh,
muted
there you
because
are.
my dog is barking.
oh, all right. So yeah, if she randomly disappears, that's why. But Gethin basically he's like, oh yeah, well, I wasn't there to tell you that you were way off the vision, Fintan. So like, I have to fix it now because you compartmentalized information too much.
The Wiley thing is even Fintan being paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, let's tie up the loose ends really quickly. I
Yeah.
feel like Wiley knows something.
Yeah. And the next one, let's see. Oh, right. This is just keeps talking about the stuff they don't know. On page 157, he says, we don't know anything about our enemies or what they're planning or what they won't. We don't know who's actually in charge right now. And we've never figured out what the Lodestar Initiative is. Or maybe I should say was, because we also don't know if they're still going by it. So really quick, the Lodestar Initiative, that was Fintan's plan. Okay, that was such a confusing thing because it was like that star symbol that was actually just a map of the hideouts. And then I don't know if the Lodestar Initiative was just the whole breaking Luminaria thing and they're overthinking it. Because
I honestly forget all the plans that they've made. There's so
Yeah.
many.
because Luminaria means light, Lodestar means guiding star. I could see them linking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have something to do with, not Shadowflux, the other one. The light one.
Quintessence? Stellar Lune.
Did you see the sentence after that?
Yeah, I have more. Just like we don't know why Fintan is keeping a list called Criterion, or why they made all those barrels of Supportine, or what the Nightfall facility my mom built was supposed to be used for, or why Vespera and Fintan abandoned it and moved this facility to Under Atlantis. We couldn't even find my mom's stupid archetype, remember? Ouch, sorry, that was probably loud.
He literally just gives us a list of
The
clues
Neverseen
right there.
clues, yeah.
Yeah. We have Criterion, we have Supportine, we have Nightfall facility, and then we have some tension and it moving.
Mm-hmm.
So Supportine, drugging humans. Criterion is Supportine and Criterion are probably Fintan's things. Then they go to the Nightfall facility, and then Vespera and Fintan abandon it and move under Atlantis.
I have no idea why, other than like maybe the one in Atlantis is supposed to be more representative, because I remember them saying that like recently humans were in Atlantis, or that was like the last city to be hidden, maybe.
Yeah, well, Vespera, that was her facility, right? They basically abandoned
Gisella's.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. So if Gisella's plan involves Keith, they go to the Nightfall facility. They don't have Keith.
Yeah, they
so
can't
they're
open
missing
it.
a piece. Yeah, they can't work with it. And so
Oh.
they're like, okay, let's
Because
go
it's
to
sealed with his
my
blood.
place. Yes.
Oh,
That's why.
That makes so much sense.
or or they just don't have the piece that is him, like him to be the criterion. Fintan at that point maybe has figured out, okay, there's some secret with Keith, we just don't know what it is, so let's work around it and use Vespera's experiments. So let's go to Atlantis. Because at
So
that
the thing
point,
in Nightfall,
huh?
did the thing in Nightfall even matter then?
It seems like villains fighting against each other, because at that point, isn't that when Gisela is working against them and she gives Sophie like the clues to the archetype or something like that?
No, I think she's just deceiving Sophie to kind of lead her along.
Well, she's doing both, because she tries to convince Sophie to join her side at the end. So I guess that's just representative
of the struggle
of the
between,
conflict, yeah. And also, yeah, but that makes so much sense. Honestly, this sentence that Keith says, they went to my mom's Nightfall, it wouldn't work. They went to Atlantis because they had Vespera.
And then
that just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. The next thing I have is on page 709. I'm trying to kind of move fast because we don't have much time. Is someone breaking up, or is it just making a weird noise?
I don't know. Is it me?
No, it must be Sydney. Okay, I'm just gonna assume it was a weird noise.
Hello?
Hi.
Whoa.
Yeah, you were like out for a second.
Hi. It went out, but it's okay.
Okay. So page 709 and 710. They're interrogating Sophie, and Keith finally got a meeting with Fintan. They're kind of asking him questions. He gives them each, or no, sorry, it was Sophie and Fitz. He gives them each a chance to ask a question. Fitz's question is like, what's Alvar's deal? You know, like something about that, because he's so focused on that. And I mean, sort of rightfully, but like also it didn't have anything really to do with the big plan, because in the end they just wanted to attack Everglyn, and they could have done that with or without Alvar. But the thing that's relevant to Fintan is Sophie asking, what was Keith's mom having him do in the memories she erased? Sophie blurted out, hoping she was making the right decision. She probably should have asked for the location of the real caches. Actually, she probably should have stayed quiet. But for some reason, when he started counting down, because Fintan was like, you have 5 seconds to ask me a question. 5, 4, 3. So when he started counting down, Keith's devastated face had popped into her mind from the day he'd told her that Tyrkin's mental exercises had been a dead end, and the question just sort of tumbled out. Fintan's eyebrows lifted, proof that she'd surprised him too, but he shook his head. That is not a single answer. The boy did many things, survived many purposes. Sophie blew out a breath. Okay, then tell me why she sent him to London to deliver a message to a house with a green door. His eyebrows shot up higher. That memory wasn't meant to be recovered. Sophie shrugged. Well, it was. One of his eyes twitched, and he picked at his nails for several long seconds before he told her, truthfully, I don't have all the details on that. Some projects Gisela kept to herself. All I know is that she was hoping to recruit someone, and it didn't work out. A human? Sophie pressed. Fintan nodded, and he looked so reluctant to do it that Sophie had to believe it was the truth, or a shade of it at least. So Fintan, he doesn't know all of Gisela's plans, which probably increases his paranoia, which could be part of the reason he was driven to try to kill her whenever he did. But Gisela's trying to recruit a human, which is interesting. I don't know why.
I forgot completely about that whole brain.
Yeah, that was a whole thing, and then she just ended up killing him, but I guess because he knew too much.
Sounds familiar.
It's a whole thing for no reason. Watch it come back though. What if Glimmer's the human?
Whoa.
Do we know if she has an ability?
Yes. Isn't she a flasher?
Is she?
Well, because she's called Glimmer, right?
Well, she's called
Yeah, she's a
Glimmer.
flasher.
When did she?
She and Tam have to work together. She's their
Oh,
flasher. Yeah.
man, that would have been cool though.
Okay. That would be a cool theory. But it means the green thing actually was a thing, but I don't really know if Shannon's gonna connect that.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I know, but how? Like, there's
It's
so
so
many rabbit
random.
trails.
Okay, guys, this one's cool. Sydney, page 711. It's still a
That's what I
flashback.
was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is this the part where you try to convince us that you're just a poor, misunderstood villain? Sophie asked. His eye twitched again. In a way, I suppose it is. The simple fact is, I joined the Neverseen because the council was wrong about my ability, and it was time to undo the damage they were causing. And you thought the best way to do that was burning people alive, Fitz argued. Hindsight, Fintan said as Sophie shuddered. I allied with too many others. Too many enemies with their own plans and agendas, and all those distractions led me down paths I never intended to follow, thinking everything was connected. But it wasn't. I can see that now. Just as I can see there's no coming back for me. This, he waved his arms around the ice bubble, is where I will end. And I can live with that, but I can't live with knowing another child, another pyrokinetic, is going to become everything we fear simply because we're too prejudiced to give her a chance. I don't even have to be around Flame to teach her. I just need someone to bring her here. And I know she's your friend. Exactly, Sophie interrupted. She's our friend. We are not bargaining with her life, but you will be if you refuse my offer. You'll be deciding her future for her. Don't make that mistake. Don't be as small-minded as everyone else. For once, be the force for change that your creators designed you to be. Your friend needs training. And then they get off on a rabbit trail. But that's a very telling thing. He's very resigned to his fate. He's very much I'm probably going to die. That's whatever. Just please let me be loyal to my pyrokinetic child. And then he's also even whenever he's talking about whenever he was on the Neverseen, he's like, in hindsight, I allied with too many enemies, and those led me down paths, and I thought it was all connected, but it wasn't. So, Sydney, you saw his introverted feeling. I wonder if he's INTJ. Super random, but because he's the master of these intricate, intuitive plans, and he's like, I thought it was all connected, but and I was just focused on carrying out that vision, but it was all just wrong, and then I just had to revert back to my introverted feeling, the relief function. So that's interesting. And that's why it's easy to see him as just the cold, evil villain. Whenever he's just covering up that introverted feeling, that's really the inspiration for his big plan.
Yeah. This is he basically lays it all out here. Everything we've been talking about, he lays it out, which is nice to know. That we're right, yeah. Yeah, on the right track. Yeah. Because he goes, Sophie's like, is this where you're just a poor, misunderstood villain? Which is kind of what we've been saying. Mm-hmm. And then he says, yeah, actually. And then he says, he's trying to undo the damage. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then Fitz asks about burning people alive, hindsight. And then he says he allied with too many others, which is showing he's like, I should have not trusted so many people. I should have trusted my vision, my kept own to it, instead of just been focused on executing it.
That is so INTJ right
It there. Really is. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Think of Thanos. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a very similar sort of story.
Yeah.
It's just, that's such an interesting scene, because, I'm siding with Fintan there.
I know, not with the whole perspective we have.
Yeah. Wow. Gorilla's my friend.
I did not think I'd be here.
Yeah.
I hate this.
He's like, I made so many mistakes by following so many different things, and I should have just tried to help people.
Mm.
Wow.
But that is really, that takes a lot of the author's skill to make you like a villain.
Yeah.
And have compassion for him.
Wow.
That's,
All right, where was I? Wow. Lucia Vacker. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she mentions on page 716 that her and Fintan have a history. She glanced over her shoulder, probably making sure no one was listening, and Sophie found herself staring at her pointed ears, wondering how small the world must have been all those thousands of years ago. Apparently it was fairly small, since she added, one of the 5 pyrokinetics who died during Fintan's ill-advised Everblaze lesson was a close friend of mine, so I was one of the louder advocates of banning the ability. Perhaps this is Fintan's way of settling that score. So, Lucia, I think that's how to pronounce her name, but she's one of the Vackers. She seems to imply that Fintan is trying to get revenge on her for wanting to ban the ability. But I don't know if that's it.
That doesn't make sense, because
that doesn't. I don't think that was Fintan's. I don't think that the whole flashback thing was Fintan's plan at all. I don't know why she thinks it was. But that was Gisela. That was all grandiose and trying to tear down everyone else's legacy and make hers seem greater. Tearing down it and building up her own at the same time. I don't think that Fintan had anything to do with that, and I think Lucia has some sort of guilt about wanting to ban the ability that she's trying to push off by saying, oh, he's trying to get revenge on me, sort of blaming other people instead of taking the responsibility, oh, I banned this ability and destroyed his life. or, you know, was an advocate of it. So maybe she, in a small way, regrets that, but just doesn't want to think about that. And instead, she's like, wants to paint him as more of a villain so that she feels justified in banning it.
All I can think about when I hear the word history is like, history.
Yeah,
What?
whenever it said Fintan and I have a history, I was like, you dated
History.
Fintan?
That is what it sounds like.
And then she was like, oh, he was active in my friend's death. And you're like, oh.
Okay, yeah.
Not the T.
Ship name.
Okay.
Finzia.
Finzia. We should like randomly post about that one day, Cindy. We should just put it on the Instagram page, like all these Finzia shippers, and then they'll have to listen to this entire episode to understand.
Yeah.
All the way to
I'm
the
already
end.
thinking of quotes I can put on there and stuff.
Oh man, why am I siding with him? I was saying,
I
wait,
hate it, but I
Fintan is
love
a
it.
poor misunderstood villain.
Mm-hmm.
And then Morella talking to Sophie on page 729 is super important. She says, I have to train with Fintan. I know there will be risks, but he's right about this power. It isn't just that flames call to me. It's like they're in me, this constant inferno in my head, begging me to let it take control. Sophie tried to hide her shudder, but Morella still noticed. And instead of looking hurt or angry, like she had every right to, she looked scared. I'm fine, she said, twisting one of her braids around her finger. I can see how I might not be fine after a few years of this, if that makes sense. That's why I have to train. I'd rather not turn into some creepy pyromaniac, you know? So it's interesting. It gives you insight to what Fintan must have felt like and why he's so, like, why it's so important to him that these other pyrokinetics do get proper training. He's like, I'm trying to undo my mistakes. I want to make sure this doesn't spiral. We have to do this or else these fires, this destruction is just going to keep happening.
And no one can really understand what it's like to be a pyrokinetic unless you're one. You're actually one yourself. Or you're an empath. So I wonder if Keith just, like, what was his perspective on this? Did he say anything about it?
I don't know. Not that I've noticed, because I didn't think to research his reaction to it.
I don't
Yeah.
think he's touched Fintan, so he...
No, he
like,
has,
doesn't know
because
what
it
his-
said that Fintan, whenever he was like, what if the
Oh, yeah.
ogres betray you? Fintan put his arm around his shoulders. And if you remember, Keith was a little bit more open to that than Sophie was. Sophie was just immediately like, you know Fintan. But Keith was like, yeah, but I stood still and heard him out. So, like...
And then he used his fear. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then this is just a random thing. On page 814, it just confirms that Fintan was the one who killed Gisela. I think it was confirmed before, but it says, ever since Fintan had tortured Gisela and locked her away in an ogre prison, Keith's mom had hidden her face behind the hood of her black cloak. It's completely not the point of that sentence because it goes on to say, like, her skin looked stretched and she didn't have scars anymore. But, like, what I'm pulling out is that Fintan had tortured her. It was his idea to, like, off her, even though it didn't work. So he didn't like her plan. I wonder if she's like the real evil one and Fintan's original plan for the Neverseen, or maybe not original, but Fintan's particular plan for the Neverseen wasn't as much of an ends justify the means sort of thing. Sure, he like killed Kenrick, but I don't think that he wanted to just kill people the way Gisela did. I think that he just wanted to help people, which is weird.
Which also makes sense for why Brant was kind of a decent person and he was called to it. And then Jolie, wasn't she almost recruited too?
They
She was a
reached out
double
to her.
agent, but there was a reason. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because they would have thought that Jolie, it can't have been Gisela the whole time. It had to have been like Fintan and Brant, and then she joined later. Because it makes sense that they would reach out to Jolie because they would think she would take Brant's side because she would feel the injustice of being
a bad match.
him having. Yeah.
And honestly, I'm totally fine with Gisela being the really bad baddie because that means better things for Keith.
Yeah.
And like he's not gonna turn to his mom then. Hopefully.
And you can even see how like logical he is about it. He's like, you're insane. How can you not see these things you're saying are completely maniacal, you crazy woman?
I love it.
It's really funny. He's so just like this doesn't make sense. You said this and then you said that you literally said I'm not gonna hurt you, Keith, and you're like, sit over here while I impale you. Like, you don't make sense. Like, and she's like, Keith, you'll understand whenever you see the legacy, my dear child. And he's like, I will not understand. That is a logical inconsistency, you crazy person. And Sophie's like, Keith, and he's like, she's a psychopath.
A psychopath.
Oh man.
And it's to, like,
And then she's
trust
like,
Keith.
Sophie, join me. And Keith's like, no.
It's like she's not
Yeah.
going to join you. You are crazy. You need to go to mental institution. Anyway.
I need
To
help.
trust Keith because he was fine with Fintan wrapping his arm around him.
Yeah.
And he knows where he stands with Gisela.
Mhm.
Oh, I love Keith.
Me too.
Anyway, we have like 10 minutes left to get through 2 more books. So
Yeah, the last 2 books I barely have any notes on those, so we're gonna be alright.
good.
So Legacy, I didn't have the Kindle version. All we know, or all that happens in it, is Fintan starts training Morella and Pyrokinesis. Lynn comes to one of these lessons to extinguish any accidental fires, and then Morella says that Fintan was impressed with Lynn. So I wonder if Fintan saw that and he was like, wait a second, hydrokinesis, that could be super helpful to pyrokinetics who maybe are training and can't completely control their flame. There's no real reason to be this scared of them, because if they're satisfying this craving for flame, they're not going to create Everblaze, they're just going to create fire. And if anything bad happens, have a hydrokinetic near. Hydrokinetics will be more essential instead of as overlooked as they are.
that and hydrokinetics are they have the same sort of call as pyrokinetics. I guess it's just that they're not
To the water
quite as
and fire.
destructive. Yeah.
But if they're both constantly using their ability, particularly to assist each other, neither of them are going to like spiral out of control.
Yeah.
So yay. And then that's all I have for Legacy. In Unlocked, the main thing is obviously that memory, which I kind of already went over. But it's interesting that like Shannon chose to bring up Fintan again then, even though he's kind of out of the picture for now. So I wonder what is going to happen with him in the other books.
Yeah. I never thought I'd say this, but I need Sophie to trust Fintan.
Yes, seriously.
I hate that. Oh no. And see,
No,
even
but
like,
my mind,
go
my
ahead.
mind has changed completely about Fintan now.
I know.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
This is going to be so fun to do the others.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't think I'm gonna be on Gethin's side.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But
But we'll see
Maybe
what
surprise.
changes.
I know.
Or Alvar.
Alvar, I'm already a little bit sympathetic to. I can already see his. Just from like.
Fintan I never
the
thought I
one
would
thing-
be, though.
I know. Oh, I don't like this.
It really goes to show that, like, even in real life, too, if you understand someone's story,
Yes.
you can have compassion for them.
Even if they killed a few people. No, that's a joke. I'm joking.
But really, though.
Yeah.
Truly.
I don't think his killing of Kendrick was justified, but like I see why he felt like he had to do it. I don't think he regrets it,
none
but
of it
it's
is
all
justified.
a lovely shade of gray.
But, yeah, none of it is justified, but it can be sympathized with. You can feel
Can
for
we
them.
name the episode that? A lovely shade of gray, the Fintan episode.
Ooh. Yes,
Ooh,
let's
I
do
like
it. Make sure you
love
put in the title that Lily's here too, so they're like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
a guest. Let me click.
Yeah,
Guys,
with the
what do you think of that?
With special guest Lily. All right, so that's all of the notes. Does anyone have any final thoughts?
I think those were my final thoughts.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's
Oh.
crazy.
Thank you for the listeners who listened to this 171-minute podcast on Fintan.
Oh my goodness.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and you want more Neverseen episodes, because there will be, as long as you guys don't hate this one. So yeah, hopefully we can get more perspective on more of the plan and on the other people's backstories, because this gives actually a lot of insight to Fintan's backstory that we
Yes.
didn't have.
Oh, yeah.
And the series as a whole, and the direction of the series as a
Yeah,
whole.
and like the whole division of the Neverseen thing confused me so much. Like I had no idea who was on what side. Like that list of things that Keith says, like I used to be so confused, but like now it actually is coming together.
This is probably what we should have been doing to theorize the
True.
whole time. Because we've been focusing on the defense, not the offense.
Yeah,
Always look at the villains. They tell the story.
that's very true.
Ooh.
And thank you, Lily, for joining us. We had a
Yes,
lot of
thank
fun.
you.
Yes, this was so fun.
You were really helpful. Yes, I love doing it so much. So you'll have to rejoin us for another episode in the future.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Forbidden Cities podcast. Leave us a review and tell a friend about the podcast if you liked us. Email us with comments and episode suggestions at theforbiddencitiespodcast@gmail.com. And to follow us on Instagram, just search @Forbidden Cities Podcast.